GamecockCentral.com for in-depth, insider coverage of South Carolina football. New members can use promo code KICKOFF24 to get 50% off an annual subscription. That's promo code KICKOFF24 on GamecockCentral.com.
WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
The home of the national champion, Gamecocks women's basketball team. Congrats, y'all.
A Cumulus Media Station.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
Not feeling like yourself? Call the Men's Clinic at 803-875-MENS.
The Halftime Show on the Game Network and the 107.5 The Game app.
12 o'clock on your Tuesday afternoon. Welcome in. It is the Halftime Show. Tyler Head, Terry Ford, along with you, getting you closer to Gamecock football. Only 4 days until we see the Gamecocks square off with the Monarchs of Old Dominion. Saturday, 4:15, which you can listen to right here on the game. Pregame coverage starting with myself and Terry at 11 o'clock out there at the party lot at Sound Images. It's going to be a great time. Plenty of excitement, really, to get this season rolling. And a big step in the lead up to the first game, Terry, of course, is the depth chart. I spent at least, the entire show yesterday feverishly hitting my refresh button, hoping it was going to drop. And, doesn't happen in our show. I'm driving home. As soon as I get home, I pull up my phone, and lo and behold, it came out 10 minutes ago while I was driving.
Dude, you were grinding yesterday for that depth chart.
I just wanted to see it. I just wanted to know. We all wanted to know. This entire offseason, the question's been about who's going to be playing where, starters and all this kind of stuff. I've never been so hyped for a depth chart than I was yesterday.
I know. It's like, we thought it would drop during this show,
Because
right?
it usually is like that 1 to 2 o'clock, middle-ish afternoon type of thing. Like I said, I feel like they were listening to us. Fink, Beamer, whoever was like, these guys really want that depth chart, huh? Let's make them wait a little bit longer. Just agonize
They were
them a little
absolutely
bit.
taunting us.
For
There's
sure.
no doubt. And it worked.
It did.
I was sitting upstairs, and all of a sudden I hear Jay and Elijah, the depth chart has dropped. Like, now.
Well,
Now you drop it.
They get everything. They had Saban retiring in the middle of their show. They get the depth chart. Like, they just get all the cool news from 3 to 6.
We never get any of that stuff. We just make things up. We have the greatest day in the history of the world.
Yeah,
that's what we get. Yeah, history from 20 years ago. All right, so it is out. A couple of surprises that we've all been talking about since it popped. Again, Juju McDowell sitting in the 2 spot, along with Oscar Attaway, is interesting.
Yeah, there is an or there.
There's an or.
But, as talked about in the last hour, I feel like there's something to being listed first, even in an or.
I do too.
You're 1A and 1B.
And by the way, right now they're sitting across the street listening and laughing when we're talking about that. Because they're going, I just picked a name out of the hat, and they're all laughing. But no, I agree with you. I think if you're listed first in the or, that should maybe mean something. So that was a surprise. Look, no, I guess we forget about Juju McDowell. This is human nature. When the new wave comes in, we forget about the other new wave, right? The new wave becomes the old wave.
I've coined it shiny object syndrome.
Oh, absolutely we do. So Juju McDowell hasn't been a shiny object in a couple years. And we forget, remember, he was hurt at the end of last year. Right when they were starting to use him in interesting ways, Juju gets hurt. So we kind of pushed him aside and said, it's going to be Rocket, Oscar Attaway. We got all these new shiny new backs, like you said. And we totally have just pushed off Juju McDowell. Kind of done the same thing to Braswell.
A little bit.
A little bit, yes. So Juju sitting in the 2 hole with Attaway, I thought, interesting. And I'll say this. If I think something happened to Rocket Sanders, God forbid, I think Oscar Attaway's a starter. I don't think Juju McDowell is the starter. I think Juju McDowell kind of fits a certain role in your offense.
Yeah.
And I don't think you would want to start Juju McDowell.
Yeah.
So.
When it comes to traditional running, responsibilities, Attaway certainly seems to be the second guy in line behind Rocket Sanders. But if Rocket's going to be taking a majority of your handoffs and you want somebody that's going to be a change of pace, somebody that you can use out of the backfield lineup in the slot, then it would make sense that Juju McDowell is maybe that second guy on the list.
And I love the idea, and we've been talking about this for a couple years now. I love the idea of Juju McDowell in the slot and a linebacker trying to cover him. Or like your fourth best defensive back or whatever. That mismatch works. Putting Juju in motion out of the backfield. Or Juju going out of the backfield, and now again you're going to have either a linebacker or a safety or your dime whatever DB trying to chase a guy who's that quick. I just think he is a very interesting, I like to use the term chess piece.
Yeah, and look, we've talked about this before. He's not a guy that's going to make you miss. He's not going to put you on skates or break your ankles. He can catch the ball, and he's fast. And you can utilize that.
Oh, yeah, and that's the thing with him because he's a little fella. I might weigh more than Juju McDowell.
Sure.
And so when you get hands upon him, it's typically over.
Right.
But like you said, if you get it to him in space and he can use his quicks to separate from the oncoming defender, you got something. So Juju McDowell was a little bit of a surprise. The other one, well, our boy Larvidan's okay, and we learned it's Larvidan.
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 The I threw me for a loop. What can I say?
Same here. Tell you what, not to be mean, if you don't want the I pronounced,
don't put it in there.
Don't put it in there. So Gage Larvidan, I was kidding with Elijah, that we went investigative reporters and got the dope on Larvidan.
Sure.
Because nobody was talking about it. We was bully the right word? Bullied Elijah to ask the question?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, we did hold him over that balcony, but
it was sort of like Vanilla Ice was held over by Suge Knight.
Yeah, exactly.
The old urban legend that Suge Knight held Vanilla Ice over the balcony.
Right.
By the way, between you and I, if you would have dropped him, would that have been a bad thing?
No comment.
Okay. So we kind of mildly bullied Elijah into that question, and then all of a sudden we found out Larvidan wasn't 100%, some lower body issues, but obviously Larvidan is healthy enough now to be one of the three starters. And there's an or there, but Larvidan is first.
There is. And look, all these receivers are going to get to play.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just the three guys that are at the top of the list. Everybody's going to get their opportunity.
I'll say this. Definitely Brown, Harbor, Campbell, Jacobs, Russell, Larvidan, Bennett, and to an extent even Doty. All these guys, and maybe even Mangrum, who has his moments, all could get some run against Old Dominion. And honestly, most of them are going to get run during the season until a level of them can separate, right? That's about fair.
Yeah.
Offensive line-wise, Josiah Thompson or Tree Babalade. The word is it will be Thompson, and Babalade he hasn't been healthy in stretches, but he has played well enough to become a legit 1B.
And it does make you kind of wonder, because when you look on the other side of the offensive line, you also have the or with Simpkins and Baugh as well. Like, are they going to switch this up? Maybe, I don't want to say every single drive, but is there going to be a set of drives, maybe in the first half, where you do have Babalade and Baugh, again, two guys that played with each other on the offensive line a year ago, plugged into these spots and kind of alternate between that to figure out what exactly you want to do?
Yeah, you could be sitting there saying, okay, we have a specific X amount of series, we will use Tree and Baugh. And not a rotation true kind of thing, but there'll be, 3-4 series in this football game where you have Tree and Baugh out there.
Right.
Because, again, you might need them as it goes along. And they are listed as ors. And the other thing, too, I think Tree is your backup tackle for both sides, and Baugh is your backup guard. And like we said yesterday, I believe if now Ryan Brubaker is listed as the backup to Rashawn Lee, but I wouldn't be surprised if, God forbid, Lee has to miss any time, that Simpkins would slide over to center and Baugh would slide into guard.
Yeah, that probably make the most sense. Versatile guy, obviously played a lot of football before he's gotten here, and for him to be able to win that right guard spot is significant enough. But yes, if knock on wood something did happen to Rashawn Lee, kind of like what you did with Gargiulo last year, you slide him to the center spot and then rearrange the pieces from there. And
look, there are NFL scouts that like Simpkins. I saw him on some lists even before the season started. I think Phil Steele has him on a watch list as well. All right, so offensive line, no real surprises there, obviously, in Case and Henry, right tackle.
If he can stay healthy.
The tight ends, no surprise, Josh Simon, Michael Smith, Brady Hunt, Maurice Brown. Defensively, we get to the old, how about them okey doking and sneaking old JT Gear into the mix on us?
I mean, talk about somebody we'd forgotten about.
We forgot about him more than Juju.
Did his name come up at all this offseason? I think he may have spoken in the media a time or two, but other than that, I mean, there and not that we were trying to ignore him. There was just no buzz around him. No. Like nobody was saying, "Hey, man, he looks good in this," and they're rotating him in here with the ones and stuff like that. What we had heard reported on, no indication that he was going to be a huge part of this edge room.
Nothing much at all. All we knew is, like you said, remember when you and I were having the conversation, okay, who spoke to the media? Mm-hmm. And we threw out his name, but we didn't really stop and talk about it. We said JT Gear talked also. Yeah. And that was it.
And most of the questions were about other guys in the edge room, not like, hey, how are you doing? What's your progression? It's like, what do you think about Dylan Stewart? What do you think about Des Yu and all these kind of guys? Like, really the forgotten guy in the room.
So JT Gear, an oar with Brian Thomas. Kyle Kennard, an oar with Gilbert Edmond on the edge. All of a sudden, you had Des Imazulu.
Des Yu. I'm going to stick with Des Yu.
I Des Yu back. So you have the oar set up over there, and then you have Dylan Stewart behind Gear and Thomas. And all those guys, again, are going to play. All 6 will play. Matter of fact, 3, 6, 9, the 12 guys that are listed on this depth chart on the defensive line are all going to get snaps.
Oh, yeah. No, and that's the benefit of what you've done in the transfer portal this offseason is you can keep fresh bodies rotated. The hockey shifts that we keep hearing about, they are going to be bringing in a fresh guy after fresh guy that hopefully, is it as big a deal against a team like Old Dominion? It's not. But especially late in the season, when you're playing Clemson, when you're playing Missouri.
And you're in the fourth quarter.
The fact that, Tonka Hemingway hasn't had to play 95% of the snaps this season should benefit you.
Linebacker-wise, Bam Martin-Scott or Demetrius Knight, and then J.R. Johnson, the freshman. Will is Debo, Bengali Kamara, and Mo Kaba. There are no oars in there.
Well, and this, because this is listed in a 4-2-5. This is essentially saying when we're 3-5, it's going to be Bam, it's going to be Demetrius Knight, it's going to be Debo Williams, which is what we expected.
And those top 3 guys, and I think Kamara as well, will all get their share of snaps.
Sure.
All right, and again, we're all rooting for Mo Kaba. Come on, Mo.
Yeah, just
get it together, man. Get healthy.
Honestly, for him, it's not about snap counts. Stay healthy.
Just stay on the field.
Just stay on the field. If you're just a special teamer, that's great. If you can make some tackles on defense, that's great too. But just don't get hurt again, please.
And Kamara is another guy that we haven't talked a lot about, but he is a solid dude.
Yeah.
Coming from Pitt. And J.R. Johnson, he's turned some heads as a freshman. He really has. Remember, he was a very athletic guy, kind of an under the radar. He became a 4-star kid, but he was kind of that between 3 and 4, came to camp here and showed off a lot of ceiling.
Give me any linebackers coach and ask them if they want a 6'4", 240-pound guy in their room. I think they'll all say yes.
But you know what, though? I liked him better as Fred. Didn't you?
Well, now it's Fred with JR in quotes. Yeah. So JR is just the nickname.
Yeah, I like Fred.
I do too. Well, especially coming in with Wendell.
Yes, Fred and Wendell.
It just sounds like 2 guys that are eating breakfast down at Hardee's every morning at 5 a.m.
Talking about the biscuits.
Exactly.
Or the 2 guys sitting in the balcony for the Muppets.
What's their name? Waldorf and
I can't
what's the other one's name?
I love those 2 guys.
Yeah, the cranky old guys.
Yeah, I love the cranky old
hate
dudes.
movies.
They hate everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, secondary is a little different. Now, before we get to secondary, something to think about. Besides, if you look at the front 2 levels of this defense, you have got 1 freshman in Stewart, 1 freshman in Johnson. And Des Yu is, 20?
Yeah.
Besides that, you got grown men. These are like grown men. These guys that wear turtlenecks and ascots. These are guys that are like outside doing landscaping in their yards.
Demetrius Knight has 2 kids?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, literally.
Kennard, Edmond, Tonka, Sanders, Goodwine, Huntley, Barrett, Jules, Gear, Thomas, Knight, Bam Martin-Scott, Debo, Kamara, Kaba. These are all like adults.
Yeah, grown men.
These are grown men. These are dudes. While Stewart and Johnson are like, hey man, what's up for night? Going to Vista, going to 5 Points. It's like, nah, man, I'm kind of staying home. What? I got some work to do in the basement.
Yeah.
I'm going over to Joanne Fabric with the wife and the kids. This is a very veteran-laden crew. A very veteran-laden crew. So we'll get to the secondary and then take a spin on that whole thought of youngins compared to vets on this depth chart. That's coming up. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, running till 3. It's here. Week 1, finally. We're talking about it here on The Game.
107.5 The Game.
In Columbia.
100.5 The Game.
In Florence.
100.3 The Game.
In Myrtle Beach. The Game Network. Carolina Calls.
With head coach Shane Beamer.
Thanks to everyone for coming out with an awesome crowd on a Thursday night.
This Thursday at 6 p.m. on The Game. 107.5 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios.
Take up to $20,000 off new Silverados.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Together, let's drive.
You know, there's some really good words. Free is a great word. Confidential is a cool word. And those are the two buzzwords when you go to the Men's Clinic of South Carolina to talk about whatever is going on that you want to stop. Whatever your issues are. It's a free consultation. It's confidential. 803-875-MENS. You make the call. You set up a consultation, free, confidential, with Dr. Dan and the staff at the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tell them what's going on. Is it you're not sleeping well anymore? You're not as strong as you used to be in the gym. You don't bounce back from workouts like you used to. You have a lack of life drive, professional drive, sex drive. You can't remember anything anymore, or like you used to. Any of those things could just be low testosterone. It could be that simple. You're driving yourself nuts for nothing. One way to find out, 803-875-MENS. Set up that free confidential consultation. If the folks at the Men's Clinic do think it's low T, they'll put you on a program designed for you to get back to being you again. Men's Clinic of South Carolina, 803-875-MENS.
Carolina Honda Powerhouse is your local Honda ATV, side-by-side, and motorcycle superstore. Hunters, now's the time to upgrade to a new Honda ATV or side-by-side and get free gear. Right now, buy a Honda Pioneer 700 or 1000 side-by-side and get a free top and windshield. Need an ATV? Get a free winch with the purchase of a new full-size Honda ATV. On-road or off-road, all roads lead to Carolina Honda Powerhouse. Exit 70 off I-20 and turn by the Flying J. CarolinaHonda.com.
Deep in the heart of racing country lies a track too tough to tame. The perfect setting for the late season drama of the Southern 500.
Outside lane gets the launch.
One last chance to make a playoff push. One last chance to catch regular season racing.
All clear. All clear.
One last chance to plan a Labor Day weekend worth bragging about.
Southern 500, baby.
NASCAR weekend at Darlington Raceway, August 31st and September 1st. Get your tickets now at darlingtonraceway.com.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, your favorite drafts are poured at a frosty 29 degrees, and rare barrel-aged whiskeys are served just the way you want them. It's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch every day from lunch to late night? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Stick around after the sun sets. Twin Peaks is open really late. Wind down with bourbon and late night bites.
Do you like to play golf?
Are you passionate about helping others?
Then join us at our 16th annual Oliver Gospels Charity Classic,
where all proceeds support the care of men, women, and children at Oliver Gospel and Toby's Place.
Assemble your team and help us golf for good on October 7th at Fort Jackson Golf Club.
Go online to olivergospel.org/golf tournament to sponsor or sign up today for the tournament.
What's up, Gamecocks? Summer is officially here, and those famously hot temps, they aren't going anywhere soon. Super hot days can be incredibly stressful on your lawn, and even more stressful on the person maintaining it. So don't spend hours pushing around an old lawnmower or going 2 miles an hour on a bumpy old rider. Come to Cato's Power Equipment. Whether you have just a few weeds or tons of acres of grass to keep cut, our huge selection of Toro, Gravely, and Aaron zero turns will make short work of your yard. Guaranteed. Spend more time where it matters this summer. And let Cato's Power Equipment help make your yard an oasis, not a chore.
Powered by Integrated Media, The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality.
The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass.
Call Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning today and mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game to get a free hallway cleaned with 3 rooms of carpet for only $129. Book online at ZerorezColumbia.com.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina, on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence. And the 107.5 The Game app.
Welcome back in. It's the Halftime Show. Tyler Head, Terry Ford along with you on your Tuesday here on The Game, making our way through the depth chart, which dropped yesterday as we look ahead to Saturday's game against Old Dominion. Coach Beamer coming up with us at the top of the hour for his usual Tuesday press conference, where I'm sure he's going to be answering a lot of questions about what happened in terms of the depth chart yesterday as it pertains to Old Dominion in week number 1. One area of the depth chart that does not feature any oars has to do with special teams or specialist in this case, and a battle that we talked about more recently here as it started to gain some steam was the battle for place kicker, where you had Alex Herrera, William Joyce, and Mason Love more recently going for the spot of who's going to be kicking field goals. Alex Herrera tops the list. He will be your place kicker going into Saturday. I do think it's worth mentioning that Mason Love is listed above William Joyce on this list. So Love, who came into the battle a little bit later on, did jump up to that number 2 spot. But regardless, none of these guys have kicked a field goal at South Carolina.
No, they have not. Now, again, you and I talk about it because to me it is a thing until it's not a thing. But I think because the kicking game has been so good here for so long, it's kind of like a natural mindset to go, it's going to be fine. It's always fine.
Don't know what you have until you lose it.
Exactly. I hope you're right.
Wes brought up a really good point in the last hour. Like, if your opening drive stalls out and, you get a 4th and 3 and you're setting up for a 50-yard field goal to start the game, just go for it. Give him something easy, something he can just bang through the uprights, 20, 30 yards, feel good about it, and then we'll worry about the longer stuff. But don't give him
52 yards,
a gargantuan to start things off, because if he misses that, oh boy.
You know what? Honestly,
because kickers are head cases.
You think?
Yeah.
You think? You know what? We always talk about like how sports it's gotten much better dealing with the mental side.
Sure.
I mean, you have like therapists now and things like that, where back in the old days, like, suck it up, dude. Don't be a candy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now we understand that sports is almost as much mental as it is physical.
Sure.
But if any spot on the team needs a therapist, kicker.
Oh, I've told you this story before. Blair Walsh, who went on to have a good NFL career until he couldn't make a field goal to save his life for the Vikings in that playoff game, was a great kicker at Georgia for the first 3 years. 4th year, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, it felt like. Turns out he was having some relationship problems, and that threw him off the entire season.
Women!
Again, you think about it like, that's stupid. No, that's kicking. If you're off even by 0.5%, you're done.
Well, first of all, I mean, Blair, get in line with the rest of us who have had women crater us mentally at some point in our lives. 2, kicking is such an exact little science. Like, we were talking about Kai Kroger and his arm.
Sure.
They were talking a ton about his elbow, and his arm, and the way he holds his elbow and all this.
Holding the elbow to drop the ball to punt it.
Think about how much that can screw up everything.
Sure.
And as a kicker, your place foot, if your place foot isn't exact in the right spot, that can blow your kick. All these things, leg swings, all this crazy stuff. It's so exact and minute. Yes. That's why they're kicking coaches now.
Yeah.
As there should be. So, in the perfect world, Herrera goes out and kicks extra points for the most part in his first couple of kicks. Then, like you said, nice little easy 32-yarder, no wind. Knock that baby between the uprights. Maybe get a couple of those in your system, too.
Sure.
And then you have some confidence built up when the tough kick's coming.
Because, you know, if you go on the road in week number 2 and it comes down to a game-winning, so you're down 27-28 with a second to go in Lexington, 55-yard game winner on the left hash, winds blowing cross at 10 miles an hour. You're going to have a lot of confidence in him in that one?
I know. But does he have confidence in him? That's the biggest question in this whole thing.
It all starts up here.
Yep, right there with your noggin. What was they always say? It's the most powerful muscle in the body. It either does good or it does evil.
Exactly.
And, you know, going back real quick, I want a quick spin at the secondary. As the first 2 levels of this defense are tons of, like, adult grown men, secondary's got a mix, doesn't it?
Yep.
I mean, you know, at corner, you've got O'Donnell Fortune, who's a veteran. The other corner, Judge Collier, who got starts last year, but has never started a full season. The or there with Collier's Vakari Swain, tons of ability, unproven but athletic. I mean, remember, he could have been a wide receiver, too, Vakari Swain.
Sure.
So.
And that also kind of leads me to believe, as Beamer mentioned in the past couple weeks, these guys are both going to play.
Absolutely.
And again, that's why the or's there. Vakari Swain's going to be on the field. Do you change this based on your defensive scheme? Is Swain out there in the 3-3-5 as opposed to Collier in the 4-2-5? Like, there's a lot of different ways you could do this, but both these guys will see the field.
Yeah, and so at safety, you know, Nick Amenwari, backed up by David Busey, or Gerald Kilgore, DQ Smith, backed up by Peyton Williams, who has been around as well. The other corner, the nickel, because, you know, again, I might be the only guy that cares about this in this entire town. Who's covering slot receivers in 2024? Jalen Kilgore, obviously, is the starter at nickel, followed by Kelvin Hunter, or Jalewis Solomon, who people love. They love the ability and the potential of Jalewis Solomon.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where Kilgore, having done it last year, gets the nod initially. But if it's one of those things where, like, man, you know, Kilgore hasn't made a lot of progress on this. Solomon's looking pretty good in practice or whatever. Maybe roll him out there and give him a chance at some point.
Or are you going to drop one of your backup corners like a Swain or a Floyd down in the slot on obvious passing situations and change your coverage scheme and coverage look? I don't know, but I just know this. Probably not a good idea to have slot receivers running loose in your secondary like you saw last year.
It certainly came back to bite you a few times.
Yes, it did. All right, so that's the way this the depth chart looks. And, you know, we talked about this with the defense on the first 2 levels, a lot of, like, adults, like guys in their mid-20s or moving into their mid-20s. The young players on this team that have not, even though they might be redshirt freshmen, that have not really played or not started, obviously the most important position on the team, quarterback.
Right.
Obviously, Josiah Thompson at left tackle. So think about this. 2 of the most important positions on your offense. Redshirt freshman. You have Mazeo Bennett, who's sitting in the 2 spot at wide receiver, freshman. You have Dre Jacobs, who played, 1 game last year at Florida State early in the season?
Yeah, he did minimal enough to redshirt.
Yeah, exactly. So he's never really started. Michael Smith, the tight end, freshman, who they love. And then you also have Shivers, who's backing up right tackle behind Henry.
Right.
Because Parks is hurt. Those are the young'uns on offense. Defense, it's all, besides Stewart and Johnson, it's all in the secondary with Swain, Busey, Hunter, and Solomon.
Right.
This is a veteran crew. Make no mistake, this is not a bunch of young'uns running around and developing and growing. You got a few of those, but this is a veteran squad. It probably has, if you looked in the country, and I think I heard this earlier, I think they were talking about it in the early game, that this is one of the most senior-laden teams in the country with seniors and super seniors and stuff like that.
Yeah, I believe it.
So this is a team that is a bunch of grown adults built to win today. Does that sound fair?
Absolutely.
So that's what you look at with this depth chart. How many oars do we have compared to Tennessee?
17.
That's nothing.
So half compared to what Tennessee has.
Yeah, it's nothing.
I don't know if anybody's beaten 34.
Probably not. That's pretty insane.
At that point, you're just putting a roster out. Right?
Oh, yeah. That's all you're doing. And throwing some oars in there. Man, we have so much stuff going on this radio station this week. 1 o'clock today, Shane Beamer, his presser, weekly presser. You'll hear it right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. Also, Shane Thursday with Carolina Calls. You'll hear that at 6 p.m. here in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach as well. And also, jam-packed with some live, taking the old road show out 9 to noon. Tyler and Chris and Wes, Gamecock Central taking over Gold Line Framing. Friday from 6 to noon, we're taking over Darlington for the big weekend race, the Southern 500. Early game will be there. Also, Tyler will be there with the extra point. And then 3 to 6, because it's tailgating time, we'll do our Friday tailgate show at Columbia Craft with Jay and Elijah, Green Street in the Vista. Then, obviously, our big tailgate, pregame, 11 a.m., Saturday, Gamecocks game day with Tyler and myself live from the party lot at Sound and Images. All right, we'll get back in here, halftime show. We'll continue focusing on South Carolina questions about this season. We'll get into that next on The Game.
The Game Network in Columbia.
107.5 The Game.
In Florence.
100.5 The Game.
In Myrtle Beach.
100.3 The Game.
Sips and Sounds, the only craft beer, wine, and spirits tasting event held indoors under the cool AC. No rain, no heat, no worries. Unlimited sampling of over 40 brands of local and national craft beers, wine, seltzers, and spirits. Live performances by Ken and Drew of Sister Hazel, Dazer, and the Donovan Twins.
Saturday, September 28th. Get your unlimited tasting wristbands now at sipsandsoundscola.com.
If you have tax problems and want to end the frustration of dealing with the IRS, grab a pen and take down this number. Hi, I'm local attorney John Ecton with the Ecton Law Firm, located right here in the Midlands. Let us show you what it takes to solve your tax problems once and for all. The first step, which can be one of the hardest, is to take action. Do something. Call me, set an appointment, and meet with me in person. Your first visit is completely free and confidential, and I'll show you how to take control of the problem. So if you haven't filed your tax returns for years or are facing IRS wage levies, bank levies, or tax liens, call me, John Ecton, at 803-771-9800. That's 803-771-9800. Or go to EctonLawFirm.com. That's ECTON lawfirm.com. Learn what it takes to solve your tax problems for good. Take that first step to a better future. Call me, John Ecton.
Chubby's Burgers off Forest Drive is celebrating its grand opening. The team at Chubby's Burgers is so excited to share their unique smash burger concept with you. There's something on the menu for everyone. And now Chubby's has 2 locations. Chubby's in Blackwood and now Chubby's Columbia. Off Forest Drive, right off I-77. Come check out their That's What She Said burger. And Chubby's is now serving their cheesesteaks daily. Stop by today and say Chubby's 2 and get 10% off from now until November 30th. Chubby's Burgers in Blackwood and now open off Forest Drive in Columbia. Holzenbach Heating and Air, the Midlands residential HVAC specialist. Call us today at 803-685-7920. That's 803-685-7920. Holzenbach Heating and Air, proud supporter of Gamecock football.
It's the Love Chevrolet countdown to Gamecock football.
4 days till kickoff.
While others take full advantage of the market with ridiculous add-on stickers, Love never sells above MSRP. Come experience the difference at Love Chevy, your trusted family-owned dealership since 1961. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
We are so excited. Sound and Images has upgraded to a phenomenal facility at 807 Bluff Road, right there across the street from our friends at the State Fair. We have new upgraded facilities, video conferencing room experience that will seat up to 35 people depending on configuration. We also have meeting space and venue space on property to offer our partners at Sound and Images. Please contact Sound and Images at soundandimages.net, your commercial AV installation and live event production specialists.
Hey, this is Ray.
And Mary Ann with Absolute Glass.
And we're happy to have been voted Lexington's best glass store for 15 years in a row.
Many drivers are unaware that your cracked windshields can be replaced, usually at absolutely no cost to you.
If all the high-end car dealerships in town can trust us to do their glass needs, so can you.
We service the Midlands both at our shop in Lexington, but we are also happy to come to you at home or work.
Find us online at absoluteglassinc.com.
And remember, if you can see through it, we can do it.
This is Bill Gunn for Old Timey Meat Market. I spend my nights with my son, my daughter, enjoying cooking out with Old Timey Meat Market Foods, and you need to visit one of their 3 locations, St. Andrews, South Congaree, and Lexington, where you'll find their shelves stocked with various cuts and grades of beef, pork, poultry, seafood, and of course, exotic meats. Selections are always fresh, never frozen, competitively priced, and of the absolute highest quality. So get all of your needs at Old Timey Meat Market.
Old Timey Meat Market. Quality selection, a cut above the rest.
Hey, it's Chris Clark. I want to invite you to join me and Wes Mitchell on GamecockCentral.com for in-depth insider coverage of South Carolina football. New members can use promo code KICKOFF24 to get 50% off an annual subscription. That's promo code KICKOFF24 on GamecockCentral.com.
Hey, it's Rich Eisen here. Join me and my compadre, Chris Brockman, every Monday on the Overreaction Monday podcast.
You're also saying the record's going to go down.
I'm saying the record's going down anyway. Doug,
I don't think you're off on this at all. Like, you're spot on here. I don't think this is an overreaction because we have no idea what we're reacting to. Come react or overreact with us. How would you say that? An overreaction, sir. Overreaction Monday. Wherever you listen, it's game over.
Over, man.
What you're talking about.
Sponsored by Love Chevrolet
on the Game Network.
What we're talking about is depth chart, and more depth chart. As the Gamecocks depth chart came out yesterday, only 17 oars. Man, thought we were going to get more oars. Oh, well.
It just means oar.
Yeah. So we been going over the depth chart, and we're going to get back to it, obviously. 32 questions about South Carolina football and Gamecock Central. We're going to pick through that here in a minute. But first, Shane Beamer. Now, what was Shane Beamer talking about for Sean Lee?
This was on one of the Gamecock Plus things. They put the little snippet up on the Gamecock football Twitter yesterday.
All right, let's check out Shane Beamer talking about Rashawn Lee and the kind of camp that his veteran center had.
Have really had great off seasons and then preseason camps as well. But I'm going to go with Rashawn Lee on the offensive line. You know, you talk about a guy that has been a part of this program now. He's going into his 5th year in our program. You go back to last season because of the injuries that we had on the offensive line last year. Rashawn had to play center, guard, and tackle last season. He is a leader on our offense and took it upon himself to make sure that our offensive line was better this year. So they stayed up here this summer in the month of May when they didn't have to. They've really worked hard. In the summertime, he hasn't missed a practice or a play the entire preseason, and he's done a great job of bringing that offensive line along with him and providing great leadership and ability on the offensive line and the offense in general.
So, I mean, again, nothing we don't know about how good Rashawn Lee is when it comes to leadership, stability, consistency. Last year, I mean, remember, he went out and played right tackle and was actually holding his own until, guess what? He got hurt too.
Right.
So Rashawn Lee, kind of the glue of this offensive line that will have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3. Casey Henry was the starter for, 4 plays?
For a blink.
Yeah, so this is an offensive line with 3 new starters. 2 of them through the portal and 1 a freshman. Now, the 2 guys backing up have experience from last year, which is a heck of a lot better than what you had last year when it came to depth.
Sure.
And at some point, you hope to have Ja'Kai Moore and Parks back. And then you've got depth of guys who, I mean, Ja'Kai Moore has played. Ja'Kai Moore's 6th year, I do believe, 5th, 6th year.
Yeah, I think so. Again, banged up. Don't know when he's going to be back.
And Parks was a transfer portal guy from Oklahoma. So if you get one of those guys back, that also goes to the depth that you have because Ball and Tree can back up 2 guard spots and 2 tackle spots.
Right.
So I feel like the offensive line is in much better shape than this time last year. All right, these 32 questions really quick. Some of them are very basic and simple. Some of them are very interesting in other ways. Question 1 is how good can Lenora Sellers be? Sky's the limit. There's a very high ceiling on Lenora Sellers.
I think not the better question. A question off of that is how good does he need to be?
You know what? I really believe this. And let's go with this in baby steps. How about in the beginning you just don't do things to lose your team games?
Take care of the ball. You're going to make mistakes. Don't make stupid mistakes. All right. There's triple coverage. Let me throw into that. Like, don't do those kind of
Watch
things.
my arm. I can get through those three guys. No, make the smart decision and don't make mistakes that are avoidable. How's that sound? The avoidable error.
I think that's fair.
So I do believe that, as this year goes on, everything we've heard about Lenore's Sellers, it will improve as the year goes through. And the hope is that you'll be seeing more of those wow plays we saw in that little bit from last year. But if he doesn't go out there and start throwing 50-yard touchdown passes and making 40-yard touchdown runs right out the gate, don't flip out.
I know people like to make the comparison to Cam Newton, and from a body size and game play standpoint, or play style standpoint, obviously there's similarities. But Cam Newton carried an entire offense on his back to a national championship because
Different
there was
deal.
nobody on that team worth their salt besides Cam Newton, maybe Nick Fairley on the other side of the ball.
That's the only other NFL guy, really.
Exactly. The offense itself was a bunch of no-names and Cam Newton. It's not the case here. You have playmakers. You have Rocket Sanders. You have a solid tight end in Josh Simon. You got guys at wide receiver. Get the ball to your playmakers. Make smart decisions. Take care of the ball yourself, and you should be fine.
And this Cam Newton comparison, remember, Cam was at Florida.
Yep.
Cam threw a stereo or a computer or whatever it was out a window, stole a laptop and whatever it was. Cam Newton led Blinn Jr.
My God, this dude's playing community college football.
Can you see Cam Newton on a JUCO football team?
I've watched some of his high school tape from when he was at Westlake in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
It was a grown man playing with children.
It was probably the same thing at JUCO.
Yeah. Like he
Hell, he looked like that in the SEC with Auburn.
He probably got to the end zone at Blinn and said, "What's that on my ankle?" It's the entire defense trying to bite me so I can go down.
It's like, hey buddy, you want your fingers back? Here, take them off my cleats. So yeah, I get we always want to compare people because it gives us an idea of stuff. But and I hope at the end of this year we're talking about Lenore Sellers playing like a Cam Newton type of guy.
Right.
But to even make that comparison at this point, all you're doing is body type, right? And the fact he can run the football.
Right.
So that's a long way to go to get to Cam Newton when Cam took over at Auburn.
Yeah, now can he become that in time? We'd love that.
That would be the hope, right?
That means a lot of good things for South Carolina. He doesn't have to be a Hall of Famer on game one.
No. Number 2, can Rocket Sanders rush for 1,000 yards or more? Sure. If Rocket Sanders is healthy, I think he goes over 1,000 yards.
Absolutely.
If he's healthy.
Absolutely.
Another interesting question, can the offensive line open holes in the run game? All right, I'll say this. Just by looking at this on paper, and we know how much paper can matter, it seems like a much better offensive line.
Yes.
Simpkins had game. Again, it's another level, but Simpkins had game. A lot of people think Bell is a huge upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
Josiah Thompson, another guy. He might struggle early. He might struggle in that Kentucky game.
Yeah.
Kentucky's got legit defensive line dudes. But Thompson, no one had that ability last year.
Right.
No one. So you're looking at 3 guys that seem like an upgrade to what you had last year. Case and Henry, if healthy, everyone loves him across the street.
Of course.
And we just talked about Vershawn Lee's value. I think if healthy, this offensive line will be much more successful in getting push in the run game. We talked about the place kicking gig already. Here's an interesting one. Which player will lead South Carolina in receiving yards?
That's a good one. You got a dartboard?
Pick a name out of a hat?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you got a pretty good shot at that.
If you forced me to pick someone, I would say Jared Brown.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe answer.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people want it to be Nick Harbor.
I say is the wild card Harbor.
Yeah, and here's the thing: he's not the starter on the depth chart as of right now, so he's not starting your season as one of your main guys. If he gets to that point as the season goes along, could he blow up in the last couple games and start hauling in 10, 12 balls a game? Sure, and maybe by season's end he's your leading receiver, but. It's not gonna. He's gonna have to do some catching up. That's for sure.
Yeah, look, we talk about Nick. We've had this conversation a lot. Is Nick Harbor still developing as a wide receiver? We saw last year. He made a couple of nice plays last year at wideout, but you also saw how far he has to go yet.
Yes,
in route running and just instinctive feel for the position. There's all these little things, even little dumb stuff about catching the football. You want to catch a ball with your hands, not your body.
Yes,
and just little things that. Nick Harbor still has to work on. But if Nick continues to work and starts to grow and develop and get better, maybe you see Nick Harbor blossom in the second half of the season.
Sure. That'd be an ideal scenario, which would in turn set him up good for year number 3.
Which then you say that's the year.
Yes.
That's the year.
That's not what people want to hear when you talk about a 5-star. But again, for what he came in here as and the, situation that prevents him from being with football all year long, that may be the best you can hope for.
Shane Beamer's presser coming up here in about 15 minutes at 1 o'clock. We'll hear from Shane. You'll hear it right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. Also, our Firehouse sub text the hour 803-404-6100. And we'll look back at yesterday's Twitter X poll. And we'll look at today's Twitter X poll that we dropped here just a little while ago. All that's coming up. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head rolling up until 3 here on The Game.
From the Midlands to the PD to the beach.
The Game Network.
Powered by Integrated Media. The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. A true reflection of quality.
The Game TV.
This is Andrew Perloff with a Sports Minute. Quarterback is the NFL's most important position. Wide receiver might be second. At least that's what the market says. The Cowboys are now giving CeeDee Lamb $34 million a year. 6 out of 8 of the highest paid non-QBs are receivers. The lesson is simple. If you're raising a football player, make sure he can catch. I'm Andrew Perloff.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you. Discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/joy and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JO.
Meet Cheryl. Hey. She's on vacation and lost in the moment. Unfortunately, so is her Chase debit card.
It's got to be somewhere.
Maybe she lost it at salsa night.
These skirts should have pockets.
Or maybe she lost it at Pilates.
3 and 2 and...
But she's not worried. With the Chase mobile app, she can lock her card till it turns up. Tools that help protect. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank and a member FDIC.
I don't feel so good.
You do feel hot. Dayquil Kids will take care of that fever.
What about my cough?
Dayquil Kids has that covered.
Will it make my throat feel better?
Yes, that too.
But will it taste good?
Yep, Dayquil Kids comes in your favorite flavor.
Purple?
Well, yes, it's grape.
Try new Dayquil Kids Plus Fever, the daytime coughing, aching, sore throat fever just for kids medicine. Safe for kids 6+. Use as directed.
You go into your shower feeling, but as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. That crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from the shower, 37 minutes later, because you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want, you're ready to take on the day and smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Shop now at Walmart.
The smarter way to clean your floors. It's time to make the swap. Swiffer Power Mop.
Introducing the new Swiffer Power Mop, the all-in-one tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. The solution's built right in, so no heavy bucket, and the pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips to get deep into grout. Don't mop harder, mop smarter.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
The halftime Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
It's time for Text of the Hour on the Firehouse Subs text line on the Halftime Show.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence. And the 107.5 The Game app.
Shane Beamer coming up at 1 o'clock, his weekly presser here on The Game in Columbia. So hang in for that. That's coming up. And Shane, also Thursday, Carolina Calls from Backstreets. That's at 6 o'clock here in Columbia and Myrtle Beach.
Where he will actually be taking live calls.
How about that guy?
Unlike
other
coaches.
Other coaches. By the way, I heard an interesting story that Debo does his show from his office.
Really?
Not from out in a restaurant or somewhere. And he used to do it back in the day at a Bi-Lo.
Okay.
And then Dollar General, and then maybe, I don't know, Piggly Wiggly.
Sure, why not?
Interesting. So anyway, where was I? Oh, Twitter X poll real quick. Yesterday's was basically what you thought the record was going to be.
Yeah.
We had 8-4, 7-5, 6-6, or other. This was interesting. 39% said 6-6. 36% said 7-5. So 75% of our voters stuck in the 6-6 and 7-5 spot.
Okay.
Which I think is legit.
Sure.
14% said 8-4. 11% said others. Among the ones that said others who commented, 4 of those comments were it's a 5-7 football team.
Yeah, I don't know how many others are going to take more than 8 wins. We'd certainly love that, but I don't. What we know about this team now, I don't know if anybody has the confidence in that happening necessarily, but 5-7, as we've talked about so much this season, is where most of the analytics, most of the national pundits have South Carolina pinned for.
And the 6-6, there are a few places that think South Carolina is going to make a bowl game, which would make them probably a 6-6 team, because those bowl games like the Gasparilla,
yeah,
that's that level where you're like 6-6, 7-5, whatever the case. So I thought it was interesting. The fan base, 75%, kind of stayed in that sweet spot in the middle of 6-6 and 7-5. And so, excellent job with the voting there. All right, today's Twitter poll. Poll question of the day. With a depth chart out, which projected Gamecocks transfer offensive starter, not named Rocket Sanders, are you the most intrigued by? Make sense?
Yes.
So, not Rocket Sanders because it's easy. Everyone would say Rocket Sanders.
Of course.
Gage Larvadan. Notice I'm getting that right. I'm killing that now.
No,
Gage
they have
Larvadan.
a proper pronunciation.
Jared Brown. Kamar Bell. Torricelli Simpkins. 2 transfer portal wideouts, 2 transfer portal offensive linemen.
Listen, offensive linemen, we only talk about them when things are going wrong.
Exactly.
I imagine it's probably going to be one of the receivers that wins that
Jared
one.
Brown at 44%, Gage Larvadan at 39%, with Simpkins at 11% and Bell at 6%.
If you're just cracking a beer to watch the game, I don't know if you're analyzing the individual offensive lineman.
You stop. How many times have you and your buds sat around and you said, dude, watch that offensive line play. It's spectacular. You know, maybe you and your friends didn't do a fantasy football offensive lineman draft?
The best offensive linemen never get talked about because they're doing their job.
Just like umpires and referees.
Exactly. If you're opening up the holes, we talk about how great the running back is for running through that hole and scoring the touchdown.
One person did vote, wrote in the comments, Delvon Campbell as his. That's fine.
Sure.
So far, 62 votes in about an hour-ish. Almost 700 views, and right now Jared Brown leading the way at 44.
I mean, there's no wrong answer.
No, not at all. I mean, that's why if you want to write in Campbell, write in somebody else, feel free.
All those guys going to play significant roles on this team, and if one of them is really, really bad, they will be replaced.
Yes. Yes, they will. So that's the Twitter poll going right now, and those are the results of yesterday's Twitter poll as well. All right, our Firehouse sub text the hour at 803-404-6100. What do you got there, Tyler?
Nameless texter says, once again, lack of development will cost South Carolina games this season.
Okay, so let's go over the depth chart real quick, because that's an interesting point. Because we always say the foundation of your football team has to be high school recruiting and development, right?
Sure.
We say that all the time. So to be fair to that text, I do think it's an interesting text. And thank you, texter. All right, ready? Keep a tally. Depth chart, starters by transfer portal.
Okay.
Rocket Sanders, Jared Brown, Dre Jacobs,
Yep.
Gage Larvidan,
Yep.
Kamar Bell,
Yep.
Torricelli Simpkins, Josh Simon,
Yep.
Brady Hunt. What do you got?
7.
Okay, starters by old-fashioned, bring them in from high school and develop them. Lennar Sellers, Josiah Thompson, Rashawn Lee, Case and Henry. 7 transfer portal, 4 high school route.
Yep.
Okay, let me see how much time I got here. Okay, defensively. Kyle Kennard, transfer portal. Gilbert Edmond was here, left, came back, transfer portal.
We'll give a half on each one.
Exactly. Tonka Hemingway, homegrown. Alex Huntley, homegrown. TJ Sanders, homegrown. Nick Barrett, homegrown. JT Gear, transfer portal. Brian Thomas, homegrown. Bam Martin Scott, homegrown. Demetrius Knight, transfer portal. Debo, transfer.
That's right. Now, he didn't play at Delaware State.
But transferred. Jelon Kilgore, homegrown. O'Donnell Fortune, homegrown. Nick Amon-Mori, homegrown. DQ Smith, homegrown. Judge Collier, homegrown. All 5 DBs, homegrown. Bam Martin Scott, that makes 6. Brian Thomas, 7. Huntley, 8. Tonka Hemingway, 9. And we gave a half on Gilbert Edmond. So you got a lot more on defense that are homegrown. On offense, most of them are coming through the portal.
Right.
So interesting dynamic, and we'll talk about it after Shane Beamer's presser. It's coming up next here in Columbia on 107.5 The Game. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We'll come back after Shane's finished and give us our thoughts on the presser and what we just talked about with development.
107.5 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios.
Take up to $20,000 off new Silverados.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Together, let's drive.
Do you like to play golf?
Are you passionate about helping others?
Then join us at our 16th annual Oliver Gospels Charity Classic,
where all proceeds support the care of men, women, and children at Oliver Gospel and Toby's Place.
Assemble your team and help us golf for good on October 7th at Fort Jackson Golf Club.
Go online to olivergospel.org/golf tournament to sponsor or sign up today for the tournament.
Get ready to smile because Herndon Chevrolet, your hometown Chevy dealer, is offering an amazing deal. This month, you could drive home in a brand new Silverado 2500 with financing as low as 5.9% for up to 84 months. Head over to HerndonChevy.com today and drive home in the truck of your dreams. Together, let's drive.
Herndon Chevrolet, Herndon makes you wanna smile.
Call 803-510-5447 for complete details.
Honey, look, the hookers. They've moved off the highway and now they're all over the parking lot.
What are all those Schroeder's towing trucks doing in that parking lot, though?
Must be towing all those unauthorized cars parked in the lot. Good thing the business owner called Schroeder's Towing to keep their parking lot clear for just their customers. Didn't those cars see the free signage that Schroeder's provides to business owners to deter unauthorized parking?
I guess not.
Schroeder's Towing, the best and fastest hookers in town.
Since 1963, Takeuchi has been a pioneer in the compact construction industry, having developed the world's first compact excavator in 1971 and the world's first compact rubber track loader in 1986. Takeuchi continues to revolutionize the industry through innovative technology and listening to customer needs. Now you can partner with a truly global leader by contacting TEC Rental Equipment in West Columbia, Orangeburg, and Somerville. From world first to world leader, Takeuchi.
From lazy days and spontaneous adventures to revving up and reconnecting, you can almost feel the excitement building, the road ahead, and a whole new season of possibilities. It's back to cool time right now at Love Chevy with amazing savings on a lot chock full of brand new Tahoes, Suburbans, and the totally redesigned Chevy Traverse. A bolder exterior design, turbocharged V6, best-in-class cargo area, plenty of space for the team and the tailgate. Speaking of football, every day is game day at Love Chevy, where it's all about the fundamentals, honesty, integrity, and straight talk. No ridiculous add-on stickers like the other guys. And who could forget about Love Chevy's $1,000 low price guarantee? Get back to cool today at South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer, I-26 at Harbison, and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
That's the power of love. Love Chevy.
Chubby's Burgers off Forest Drive is celebrating its grand opening. The team at Chubby's Burgers is so excited to share their unique smash burger concept with you. There's something on the menu for everyone. And now Chubby's has 2 locations. Chubby's in Blackwood and now Chubby's Columbia. Off Forest Drive, right off I-77. Come check out their That's What She Said burger. And Chubby's is now serving their cheesesteaks daily. Stop by today and say Chubby's 2 and get 10% off from now until November 30th. Chubby's Burgers in Blackwood and now open off Forest Drive in Columbia.
Nachos! Get your nachos!
Hey, I'll take some.
Great. And some Frank's Red Hot.
Oh, nah, I'm good.
Oh, you're just gonna eat these dry, plain, boring nachos with no Franks? Seriously? Frank it up. Frank it up. Come on, lady. Frank it up. Frank it up. Frank it up. Yeah! Yeah, this guy finally gets it. Hey, look, we're on the Jumbotron.
It's the perfect blend of flavor and heat. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Hit us up on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100.
Your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
Congrats to the Gamecocks women on another national championship.
A Cumulus media station.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
Not feeling like yourself? Call the Men's Clinic at 803-875-MENS.
It's 1 o'clock. That means football. Football. And more football on the Halftime Show.
Is sponsored by Atlantic Window and Door. Go to awdsc.com.
On the Game Network and the 107.5 The Game app.
Today, the 1 o'clock hour means Beamer, Beamer, and Beamer. Shane Beamer's presser coming up here in just a second. Tyler will give us the heads up when we roll off to the press conference with Shane Beamer. Obviously, it's Old Dominion week. Finally, football is here. Shane will be talking about the Monarchs, some of the new faces. He'll talk about the depth chart and all sorts of good stuff. So Shane will be, just give me the word, man. We're ready to go.
Oh, and it's showtime.
Shane Beamer, press conference right now here on the Game in Columbia.
Steve, excited. Finally game week, like Steve said. Really excited to get out there and play on Saturday afternoon. Our guys have been nothing but fantastic since January. Love what we've done as a team and how we've grown since January. And can't wait to get out there on Saturday and finally get to compete against someone else in front of our great fans. We'll need our crowd. This will be the biggest attendance that Old Dominion has ever played in the history of their program. So we certainly need to do our part as a fan base, and know they will. They've been waiting since November to get back in there and cheer on the Gamecocks. So I know they'll be at their best. Gamecock Walk will be at 2:15, I believe. We're leaving the hotel to come down around 1:50, and as soon as we get here, we'll be doing that. So we need that to be rocking on Saturday to welcome our players to Williams-Brice Stadium, and a lot of guys that'll be going through Gamecock Walk for the very first time as well, and looking forward to that without a doubt. Thought we had a great practice this morning, great spirit, great energy, intensity, everything that we wanted it to be. That was on display this morning. Great respect for Old Dominion and their program. Obviously very familiar with them growing up in Virginia and recruiting up there for so long. They're located in a hotbed of recruiting in that part of the country. They've got good players. There's no question about it. You look back at last year, they easily could have been an 11-win team. They had 5 losses last year by 6 points or less. So they very easily could be a team that we're sitting here talking about, an 11-win team that was in the mix for a New Year's Six bowl game or whatever it was called last year as well. Got a linebacker that's the preseason player of the year in the Sun Belt Conference and is their all-time leading tackler. He is all over the field offensively, and they play a unique style of defense that will present challenges for our guys in the run game, without a doubt. Play really, really hard. That's evident on tape. Offensively, they'll look very much like Tennessee with the tempo, the formations, the concepts they run in the passing game, the patterns, the run game. They were very much like that last season. And then in the offseason, they hired 2 assistants off of Tennessee's staff that are now at Old Dominion. So it'll be very much we anticipate Tennessee flavor and a lot of tempo and whatnot. So we've got to do a great job of handling the tempo as a defense. Athletic quarterback that can make plays for them as well. And then on special teams, they've no one in the country. We pride ourselves on being really good on special teams and blocking kicks and impacting games. No one in the nation, or excuse me, they've got the second most blocked number of kicks in the nation over the last 3 seasons. So they're very opportunistic and really good on special teams as well. We all, if you follow college football, you know about their history, beating Virginia Tech 2 years ago. They lost to Virginia Tech last year, but had over 200 yards rushing on Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. They played Wake Forest last year, had them down 2 scores in the second half. And then all you have to do is look at the history of the Sun Belt Conference and who the Sun Belt Conference has beaten over the last 6 years, and it is a who's who of college football. So we need to make sure that our team, our fans, and everyone understands that this is a quality opponent coming in here that does not look like a group of 5 team from a personnel standpoint. They got size and athleticism up front on defense, and we know they're not coming in here hoping to play well or keeping it close. And as a competitor, you want that, and we need to have a great week of practice and put ourselves in position to go play really well on Saturday, and got off to a great start with that this morning. Questions?
Shane, a couple for you. You mentioned last Thursday that Ja'Kai Moore might be out for a while. Is there an update on him?
He'll be out.
For the game?
Yes, he'll be out here for a little bit, definitely for Saturday. He and Aaron Parks both. If he returns, we'll let you know, but won't be a week-to-week thing for now.
And Alex was on top of the kicking competition for the depth chart. What made him win the job, and will there be competition going forward?
Yeah, we'll constantly continue to compete, throughout the year. That's how we do things. Like I told our players this morning, practice matters, games matter, and every week's a new season. But certainly coming out of the preseason, David, we felt like Alex was just a little bit farther along. It was a competition. I think all those kickers would tell you they didn't have the best first week of practice, but I thought as we got into scrimmage situations, more competitive situations, stadium environments, that Alex took a step and separated himself from the rest of that group as well. I like the group. It's a talented group of specialists, but that's what we saw. And you would expect that from him, as he's an older guy that's been around here for a while and has played in games, and there should be a quiet confidence with him, not to mention he's a talented kicker.
Nicky Manwari said something about how maybe you try to poke some of the guys on the defense a little bit to keep them motivated. Can you share any examples of what that might sound like?
No. He said that today in practice?
He didn't specify whether it was today or just...
I think there's certain, your players and you know what motivates them and what gets them going. And I think they told the story 2 weeks ago of we got Rocket and Debo had a collision, and I was kind of getting on Debo about it. And then Debo went crazy the next 3 plays, and TJ Sanders said that you, meaning me, caused that as well. I think it's just knowing your players and what kind of motivates them and getting them going. And certainly I know how to he was talking today specifically to Debo. I know how to get Debo riled up and going as well, but it's just nothing more than just having fun at practice and trying to find different ways to motivate guys out there.
And one more defensive related thing with the tackles rotation, I guess a lot of it's based on who's doing well throughout the course of a game, but how much do you guys talk as a defensive, or how much do you talk with the defensive staff about, hey, let's try to rotate X number of snaps or however often, and I'm guessing you probably feel a little more flexible?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you could realistically see 6 guys play on Saturday. You will see 6 guys play Saturday between Tonka, Boogie, TJ, Kel, Jules, and Nick Barrett. And then Rondo Porter, Ronnie's brother, and Jamal Weiss are in that mix as well. But certainly you're going to see a deeper rotation than what you had last season. We want to play our players. Clayton and I talked about that yesterday, myself, Clayton, and Dal. We have more depth, and we need to play our guys. We know it's going to be hot Saturday. So play our players and keep them fresh where we're at our best in the fourth quarter. Certainly if a guy's not doing what he's supposed to do, we're not going to keep him in there. But we're going to play a lot of defensive linemen, and it's something that we do talk about on Saturdays before, when we're at the hotel, home or away. we always meet as a staff at the hotel during the day, and we literally go through every single position. Okay, Travian, how are you going to play them today? You know, if we're in this personnel grouping, how you starting out? If this guy were to get hurt, what you're thinking here? Okay, Mike Furry, what are we looking at receiver today? You know, what are we thinking in different scenarios? So we all hear it as a staff, and Joe DeCamillis is on the same page as far as what we're doing. So we have an idea of there shouldn't be any surprises coming out of a game as far as how much people played, because we discussed that as a staff and before the game, and then it's conveyed to the players throughout the week also.
With Juju being right behind Rocket in the rotation at running back, how much does his ability as a pass catcher kind of play into the decision you made to go with him as the backup to Rocket? And then what has kind of impressed you the most about him in fall camp?
Yeah, you guys have clearly done some deep analysis on that depth chart yesterday, and I can assure you guys it's not etched in stone at any position without a doubt. Juju's a guy that we have confidence in. He may be, did we list him second? I guess we listed him second on the depth chart. And one of those three guys may be in there. There may be somebody else in there early in the game before. It's all personnel driven for us in so many ways as far as certain plays, certain schemes, how the game's going. Just because there's guys that aren't listed on the depth chart that are going to play a lot on Saturday for us on offense and defense also, most likely. But in regards to Juju's, it's his birthday, by the way, so happy birthday, Juju. He's a competitor. He brings great spirit to our team. He is undersized, but he is tough as heck. He knows the offense. We can do a lot of things with him, Jack, and getting the ball in his hands, in and out of the backfield. He's been really good for us as a kickoff returner. Like I said, knows the offense, pass protection. He just brings energy to us when the ball is in his hands. And I hate that he got hurt last season late in the year, because we were looking at some stuff over the summer. I mean, you go back to the Jacksonville State game. He caught a screen pass out of the backfield and did some really good things with the ball in his hands. So he's just a really good football player.
I want to ask about two of the transfers on the offensive line that are in pretty good positions on the depth chart with Kamar and Torricelli. What have you seen from those two over the last few weeks to be able to entrench them with really important spots on the offensive line and to get a lot of snaps?
Yeah, they've been that way since day one. The moment or the environment wasn't too big for them ever since they came back in here in January. They've both have brought a toughness to the offensive line. They've both brought a competitive spirit and energy, to the offensive line that we want to play with. Torricelli was a guy that had a really good career at North Carolina Central, and Kamar had bounced around from Auburn to FAU, but they're older guys that are great young men. They're smart. They've just been very steady, and it's allowed us, Trevon's going to play a lot for us and whatnot. And Marquis is going to play a lot for us as well. So we like that offensive line group and like those guards without a doubt. But Torricelli and Kamar, two older guys that have just brought an awesome spirit and energy to the offensive line unit.
You said on Thursday on your radio show that you were probably going to be starting a true freshman at left tackle with Josiah. One, do you remember ever doing that at any, analyst, assistant coach, coordinator ever being on a team where that was the case? And two, why is he so unique?
I said that on the radio show. He's got an oar by his name. He and Tree both are out there battling it out. He's really athletic. I go back to this too, Alan, like he was here for spring practice. We started a true freshman left tackle last season that didn't even get here until June. At least Josiah and Cam and Blake and those freshmen, they all got here in January, so they were able to go through spring practice, which has been huge for them. Josiah is very much like Lenoris in that he doesn't say a whole lot. He's just the same every day, and it may be like complete chaos going on in his head and all around him out there on the field, but he doesn't show it. He's got great tools. He's extremely athletic, and he's a gifted player. Comes from an awesome family and excited for his future here at Carolina. There was a reason he was recruited by every school in the country and turned down every school in the country to come here. As far as starting a true freshman offensive tackle, I can't remember. There maybe was, but I'm trying to run back through my head of all the places that I've been, and nobody nobody comes to mind. But, again, we've got Tree out there that's played some as well. Kason Henry's an older guy that can play both sides. Jatavius Shivers is doing a good job as an offensive tackle for us. And then we've got to be good about, helping these offensive tackles as well with calls and whatnot.
You mentioned that this group has been fantastic since January. What qualities does this group have as a whole that get you excited about this season?
There's a lot. Maturity, because we have a lot of older guys that are returning that, as I've mentioned before, have been here and have played a lot of football for South Carolina. The transfers that we've added, it's a mature group of guys that handle their business as well, which really excites me. Demetrius Knight at linebacker, Rocket Sanders on the offensive line, or we just talked about Kamar and Torricelli. I can go on and on and on with the Oscar Attaway with the transfers that we've brought in for sure. Just their hunger to work and just the consistency day in, day out. There's days, this is year 25, 26 in coaching for me, and there have been preseason camps where you could say, okay, we maybe took a step back today, or we didn't have a great day today and whatnot. I don't remember ever walking off the field this month and saying, you know what, we didn't have the day that we needed to. Was it always perfect? No. But the effort was always there. The intensity was there. And just the way they handle their business, just on and off the field. They're a really, really, really fun group to coach, and just best thing I can say is they just don't waste days. We had a mock game week last week, and I thought we went out last week and had 3-4 amazing days of practice. We do a situational practice on the Friday before the first game, or 2 Fridays before. So Friday afternoon, we went in the stadium about 4 o'clock and went through just a script of all the situations that can happen. And we did that at a faster pace than we ever have in my 4 years as the head coach, which to me means they're locked in, they're focused, they're paying attention, they're getting their work done, and we're getting off the field. Just things like that that I see.
It was kind of weird to watch college football this weekend and realize there's 2-minute warning and some other stuff. Yeah. What practice have you done as a coach to get yourself, prepared to be in a game and understand those situations and decide, hey, what are we doing at this and this and this?
Yeah, great question. It's hard until you really do it. One, taking time over the summer and looking back at scenarios, whether it be the NFL or college situations, where if there had been a 2-minute warning, how this situation would have been handled with a 2-minute warning when it happened without it in the past. In other words, watching NFL games, and kind of anytime I watch a game, it's hard for me to just watch it. I think about it as a head coach. Okay, what would I do here and whatnot? So watching NFL games and thinking about that, but that's even different because the clock doesn't stop on a first down in the NFL. So, but trying to put yourself in as many of those situations, and then we do 2-minute quite a bit in practice, and making sure that we have enough scenarios for myself, but not just myself, but Clayton, Dow, Joe D, that I create a scenario in practice where it involves the 2-minute warning and whatnot, because there'll be things that come into play on special teams because of it now, offense and defense. And probably the biggest thing for me is just that you have to adjust all of your, okay, in the past, it was ingrained in me, all right, if there's 2 minutes, whatever, left on the clock, and the other team has this number of timeouts or that number of timeouts, here's the magic number that we need to get to be able to take a knee if we're winning, or here's the magic number that we can get to here's when we need to call our timeouts to potentially get the ball back. And now all of that has changed. So really just trying to wrap my head around the new numbers, if you will. But it'll certainly be different, and it'll be great change. And we've tried to implement it as much as we can in practice as well.
Hey, Shane, whenever we talk to LaNorse, he always seems so even keel. When you have someone like that, are you not as concerned about the moment being too big, even if it's a quarterback making his first career start and with added expectations, added pressure, the crowd?
Yeah, you always worry about it, no matter, we talked about it as a staff yesterday, Rick, like no matter what their demeanor is, it's still going to be a lot. on Saturday. They're 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old young men. And for a lot of these guys, some of the transfers that are maybe coming from smaller schools, it'll be the biggest crowd they've ever played in. And Lenoris, it'll be the biggest crowd that he's ever started a football game with as well. And once the ball kicks off, it's all football. We know that, but certainly we as coaches know that it's still going to be a lot on Saturday, but absolutely with Lenoris's demeanor, he gives you a quiet confidence where the moment's never too big for him. It's the way he handles himself, and a lot of the really good quarterbacks that I've been around. I'm not comparing him to Jalen Hurts, but Jalen at Oklahoma, Jalen was that way. I mean, he was all the time, and that's the way that he played. Spencer, I mean, showed emotion, but Spencer never got too high, too low. So I think that's a great quarterback to have, or great quality to have, not just in a quarterback, but any leader in my mind.
Sort of on that topic, I guess, do you have any specific recollections of what Lenoris was like coming off the field after those handful of plays he had last year when y'all were scoring touchdowns and everybody's going wild?
Excited. I'm trying to think. The Furman one was certainly excitement because he got out there and he rolled out and he actually absolutely ripped the ball down the right sideline to Tyshawn, and the whole sideline was like, oh my God, as well. So that was just, I think, pure excitement and joy. The Vanderbilt one where he had that touchdown run was a little bit more disappointing because we didn't expect it to quite unfold that way, because we knew the next week was going to be Kentucky and we were going to maybe do some stuff with him in the game at quarterback going into that week, and he kind of blew the surprise by keeping the ball and running for a 40-yard touchdown or whatever he did. And then the Kentucky one I think was a little bit I just got the crap knocked out of me by a Kentucky linebacker on that play that we ran as well. But in all those, not too high, not too low, all different, but just, what's next? Ready for the next play, and that's very much who he is.
Not that we've talked about Lenoris enough, but another Lenoris one. What are the conversations with him this week leading into his first career start? And besides a win and throwing for 4 touchdowns and X amount of yards, what does a successful start look like for him in your eyes and Dow's eyes?
Yeah, I think just being efficient. The conversations, most of it right now is with Dow, and to me, you're not just him, but all the quarterbacks. My conversations with them, it's preparing throughout the month of August, and going back to Jordan's question about 2-minute. Like anytime we do a 2-minute scenario, we did it Sunday night in practice, and getting with Lenoris right afterwards, like, hey, here's what I was thinking here, and here's why I called timeout here, and here's why we clocked it here, trying to help him as much as you can on that with those scenarios. We ran a play in practice on Sunday night, and it was a play that he knows that I like because we call it Sooner from Oklahoma. So he texted me first thing Monday morning about, hey, tell me again the coaching point on this one. So it's a lot of dialogue back and forth that he and I have had, myself and all the quarterbacks. I'm in the quarterback meetings during the week. I was in there this morning, so I'm able to hear what Dow and Coach Shula are telling those guys, and we'll continue to have those conversations more one-on-one as we get closer to game day. And then as far as successful, we're not asking Lenoris to go out there and win the game and do everything by himself. Just being able to get things called, get things communicated, and then operate the offense efficiently, protect the football, and we can't turn it over, and making the right decisions with the football, and knowing when not to force things, all that stuff. But he's played a lot of football. I know it's not college football, but he won a state championship and had a heck of a senior year. So he's played a lot of football, and once we get out there on Saturday, it is what it is.
With Vershawn Lee, you named him your top performer in the fall. What has stood out most about him, and how important is it to have a veteran on that offensive line and in the offense like him?
Well, I appreciate Alan was listening to Carolina Calls on Thursday night because he heard that, and you clearly watched Gamecock football with Coach Shane Beamer on TV, so appreciate that as well. We did. We named Vershawn Lee the kind of, in my mind, the top performer. Just the of the preseason camp. To me, just his consistency. You talk about a guy last year that played center, guard, tackle. He had to do it all last season because of the injuries that we had on the offensive line. He has been just kind of the glue of that offensive line ever since really last season, but now from January on, hasn't missed a day of practice or anything. He's just been Mr. Steady, Mr. Consistent. Just like the question earlier about this class or this team and what excites me about him, Rashawn embodies that. He's just a guy that I think appreciates every day that he gets to be a part of this program, and his spirit and passion that he practices with shows every day. And he's a heck of a player, but he's doing a really good job leading the offensive line and really being one of the leaders on this football team, and has been since January.
Shane, anybody for a non-injury reason out for this week?
No. Yep. No. So hopefully nothing happens between now and Saturday. But nope, I'll be honest with you on that one. We don't have anybody right now.
The coaches in the booth depth chart also was released yesterday.
Hey, you like that, don't you?
I do.
Steve covers it all. Yeah. Like, we're going to have every answered.
Who else will be in the booth with, I guess, Dowell and Torian, or I guess some GAs? Yeah, support staff, so offensively, Ryan Juracek is up there with Dow and does a great job of, talking to Dow and communicating what he sees. John Rudnicki, who's one of our offensive graduate assistants, he's up there, works with our offensive line, does a great job, so he's able to help with what's going on up front. Defensively, Trey Money, who works with our linebackers, is up there, does a great job as well, talking to Clayton and communicating to him what he sees and what's going on. Who else is up there? Jordan Dove, who does a really good job as our defensive graduate assistant, working with the D-line. Those guys are the primary guys up there in the box. I know I missed one or two, I'm sure, but those would be the main guys up there with Dow and Torian.
As far as the running backs, is Rocket on any type of not pitch count, but I mean, are you guys just gonna have him go most of the game, or are you expecting to rotate that between three guys and him come off the field a decent amount?
No. First question, he's not on any kind of pitch count to my knowledge. Now, if Clint Haggard or somebody comes to me and says that he is, then we will. But no, he's not limited in any way, so he'll play as many plays as we need. We need him to play. But certainly, no matter who is your running back, it's a long season. It's a long game. We want to keep those guys fresh and keep rotating guys in and out. So we'll absolutely rotate, without a doubt, between Oscar and Juju. And we're excited about Jawarn Halm. We're excited about Matthew Fuller and Bradley Dunn and DJ Braswell. We got a lot of running backs in there that have played and that we're fired up about. And certainly it'll be a rotation. But assuming Rocket's out there on the first play, depending on the personnel grouping, it'll be kind of his show, and we'll run with it and certainly rotate those guys in and keep them fresh too.
You mentioned in your opening statement about Old Dominion's history of kind of playing spoiler for a couple of larger schools and programs in the last several years, but what makes them such a good spoiler program, and how do you guys prepare for not overlooking them and hammering that message home?
Yeah, I think it's not just them, it's that there's so much parity today in college football, and it really is. I mean, you think about teams nowadays that because of COVID, you had a lot of guys that got lost in the shuffle of recruiting and maybe didn't get recruited their senior year of high school like they would have if there hadn't been COVID. Torricelli Simpkins is a great example of that. He is an SEC football player, and nothing against North Carolina Central, but he didn't have a senior season, I don't think, and if he did, the coaches weren't able to go out on the road recruiting. So I think there's more parity than ever nowadays because of it. I mean, we had them this morning in our team meeting. We had all of the players on our team that transferred here from a non-Power 4 school. I had them stand up, and when you look around the room, there's some dudes on our team that are, a lot of them will be playing a lot of snaps for us on Saturday. So I just think it's more parity than ever in college football. You look at the Sun Belt Conference specifically, and I meant that, whether it be I'm not going to name names because then every fan base will be after me that Beamer's calling out the Vols, which I'm not doing. But you've got a lot of teams in the SEC and ACC and Big 12 that have lost to teams from the Sun Belt as well. great respect for Oklahoma State's program. They won 10 games last year and played for the Big 12 championship. I just said I wasn't going to call anybody out. Now I am. But South Alabama beat Oklahoma State last year convincingly, and in Stillwater as well. So we've shown, and the Sun Belt Conference has shown that you better be ready to play every single Saturday. And then to Old Dominion specifically, they're located in a great region for recruiting, so they've got really good players. To me, and for teams to quote-unquote pull upsets, you need an athletic quarterback. They got one. You need a opportunistic defense. That they have one. They've got size up front. They play a unique style that makes it difficult, particularly in the run game, to get everybody blocked and communicate to get a hat on a hat. And then you need to be able to make plays on special teams. And like I said, they've blocked the second most number of kicks in the country over the last 3 seasons. So it's a good program, very familiar with it, and have a ton of respect for the way they do things.
Whether it's game by game or week by week, how difficult is it for you to balance what you saw over the course of camp versus what you see in a game in terms of playing time and rotation? How difficult is it to figure out how long of a leash to give a guy if they're not quite performing well, but they were awesome in camp, along those lines? Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think it's a individual basis, body of work. What have they shown in the past? Are they young? Do you live with some things a little bit more, maybe because they're young, whatever it may be. But our players know that, like I said at the beginning of this thing, practices matter, games matter, and it's a total body of work where we know what people are capable of, and it's a production business. I get that. And if we're not getting the production that we need from someone, we've got to be willing to make changes and get somebody else in there. But I'm excited, though, because of the depth more than we've had around here on our entire football team. We'll be able to play a lot of people and get a lot of guys some work. And we're going to play the whole or at the receiver position. There's a ton of ors, I'm well aware, because we anticipate all those guys playing. I mean, I told the receivers this morning I'd be surprised if we didn't play 9 receivers on Saturday. And, we're going to be a team that continues to get better as the season goes, and that's going to be because of playing a lot of people and guys continue to develop. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thank y'all.
There's head coach Shane Beamer. His presser just wrapped it up for week 1. Here we go. Talk about Old Dominion. Hey, do not disrespect the Monarchs.
Hey, the classic, we would call it cliche at this point, where they just come, man, this team. What got me? Old Dominion went 6-7 last year, right? Including blowing the bowl game against Western Kentucky.
Blowing a gigantic lead, yes.
We can say the things about ifs and buts, but saying they were almost an 11-win team that could have gone to New Year's Six, I think is a little bit of a stretch.
Just teeny.
Just a tiny bit.
A teeny bit of a stretch by Shane.
I appreciate the, hey, don't take them lightly kind of thing, but that one might have been a little far.
You know what? It's... But you know what? And in his mind, I think he knows that, right?
Sure.
But his job is to sell you on Old Dominion like nobody's
totally.
business.
Listen, every great coach, I mean, Nick Saban, the classic skit about Georgia Southern. What they'll do to you.
Hey, don't disrespect Mercer.
Yeah. Well, and look, there's inevitably every single year where one Power 5 team loses to a G5 or an FCS team, and every coach around the country says, see that? See what I told you? That can happen to us.
And you don't want, and here's the thing, too. You say 2 things. A, see that can happen to us, and secretly, you know what you say in your head? That's not happening to me.
Exactly. No,
I can't
I'm not
let
letting
that happen to me.
But you need that reminder every night, like, okay, we're Alabama, we're Michigan, we're never going to lose that team. Look at that. Remember 07, Michigan and App State?
House, I was getting ready to say, Michigan and App State. I mean, that's the one, right?
That is the upset of all upsets, even though that was a really good App State team that had won the FCS National Championship. They weren't a bunch of schlubs by any means, but that is the standard for what upset in college football is.
Right. And you don't want that to happen to you.
No.
So you will do everything in your power to convince everyone, including your team, that the squad that's going to roll into Williams-Brice on Saturday can beat you.
Oh, I mean,
if you don't take them seriously.
They might as well be the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes.
In fact, you know what? They're better than the Chiefs.
Oh, they could beat the Chiefs.
They could beat the Chiefs with one hand tied behind their back.
If they lost like 45-0 to the Chiefs, you just say this: take away that 45 points, it's an even game.
Listen. If they would have scored more points than the other team, they would have won the game. That's how close they were.
And I get it. And all the coaches do it. I mean, they always talk about Lou Holtz. You know, Preston tells you great stories about Lou Holtz. Every team is an iconic team that you're going to play.
Well,
every team is great.
He said the classic thing was like, on Monday, you're garbage, you're trash, you don't deserve to be on the same field with this team. On Tuesday, it was this team is going to come in here, they're going to eat you alive. Wednesday, all right, you guys might be able to hang in there with them by halftime. And by Thursday and Friday, okay, you might be good enough to beat these guys. That's how you motivate a team.
That was Lou Holtz. So, I mean, it happens all the time with coaches. They are so petrified to lose games like this. And look, let's be honest here. You're coming off a 5-7. It's not like you just are popping off a New Year's Six bowl game or a college football playoff
they were
trip.
Almost a New Year's Six team.
No, I mean you yourself.
Oh yeah,
South Carolina. So you're coming off a 5-7. You had a disappointing year. The last thing you want if you're Shane Beamer is not to take the Fighting Monarchs seriously.
That's right.
And they come in here and all of a sudden you got a Jacksonville State on your hands.
Yes.
It's the last thing you want.
Which I imagine there's a lot of tape of that going around this week. Like, guys, remember what happened last year?
Mm-hmm.
New guys, here's where we were back in November. Mm-hmm. We were 1 pick six away from losing this thing to Jacksonville State, who, by the way, was one of the worst teams in FBS.
I think about this. You probably also are sitting here talking about the Sun Belt and saying, hey, App State here, this Sun Belt team here, South Alabama against Oklahoma State, this one. Because, again, your goal is to make your team focus.
Sure. That
these dudes from Tidewater can pop into your stadium, beat you, and go, by the way, can we have our check?
Yeah.
Can we have our check, please? Thank you so much. But, it always is funny to hear when they try to spin it. That was a good one by Shane. Matter of fact, that might have been an all-timer. I like that. That was pretty good. Yeah. If they don't blow any of those one-score games, go different. Just saying.
If they didn't lose their games, they would have won all of them. They would have been undefeated.
That's right.
Exactly.
If you didn't lose the games that you lost and you won them instead of losing them.
And you know what? When the coach is in the middle of that, you don't correct them.
No.
You're just like, oh, sounds good.
They're rocking.
Exactly.
They're going.
Don't throw them off.
And you want your team to understand that if they're not sharp and playing their A game, they could get beat.
Coach, this team lost 7 games a year ago, but what if they didn't lose those 7 games?
What if they were
What if?
How are you feeling now?
Just saying. Different perspective.
Yes. So yeah, I always love listening to how all coaches try to spin those games. And Shane did really well. Let's give Shane props on that. That was good. And look, I'll be honest with you. I don't think we've sat here at all this week saying, oh, good Lord. I mean, you be Old Dominion. Jays, you can put the cheerleaders out there and cocky. No one said that.
Right.
Again, because you're coming off a 5-7. And you got to take everybody seriously.
Right.
You look through that schedule. There's nobody you can go, well, I mean, Wofford, hey, let me tell you something about Wofford. Tell you what, they're the best team in the state with the name of the university starts with the letter W.
They might be the best FCS program in the state of South Carolina.
Named Wofford. That's what you got to do.
Yes.
I mean, that's the nature of the beast. And so it was fun. That was a good one. That was a nice turn.
Well,
that was a nice turn.
I'm sure you gotta write it out. Got to prepare it.
Yeah. I always like when you're a coach. I guess some that comes more naturally to than others, right?
Sure.
These kind of little things. But some. I wonder if they're sitting in their office going, "I need an angle. I need an angle. Oh, I need an angle." Start calling all your assistants. I need an angle. Call the wife. Honey, I don't care about the kitchen fire. I need an angle. I need an angle. Start calling your buds.
Right.
Hey, help me. I'm looking for something. And some guys it's natural. They just figure it out every week. How do we focus to make this team look dangerous?
Right.
So that was Shane. I mean, nothing that came out of that. He did say, hey, Josiah Thompson and Tree are still battling. There's an or there. But I feel like Josiah Thompson will be the starting left tackle on Saturday. I mean, will you see Tree? Yeah, but I think Josiah Thompson will trot out there with the ones.
Sure.
I think that's the way this will go on Saturday. And, talking about, a lot of folks dug into the depth chart with Shane. Shane was funny. It was like, yeah, you guys really studied this thing, didn't you? You guys are really on it.
He knows.
Oh, yeah. And look, all the coaches, especially the SEC coaches, know that when that depth chart comes out, it's being studied.
Sure.
It's like the grant of rights. When the lawyers go look at the grant of rights at the ACC offices, trying to dig through that baby, see what you can get.
Right.
So there's Shane talking to the media. Is it going to be every Tuesday at 1? Because last year, I think it was like 1:30 last year, I believe.
I believe so.
Maybe I like 1 o'clock. It's cleaner for our purposes.
Sure, definitely.
Works out better for us.
A lot easier.
Yes. So there's Shane discussing Old Dominion with the media. And also, obviously, we've been going over the depth chart that came out yesterday. Old Dominion, we've had this conversation. They are looked at, if you look at the different projections and computers and all that stuff, about about a 4-win team.
Mm-hmm.
They got they've got some question marks about how good they'll be at quarterback. Their offensive line was a sieve last year. That offensive line, 62 sacks given up. 2 returning starters combined gave up 19 sacks last year. I'm hoping the defensive line and linebackers will be doing a lot of eating. Hope there's a lot of celebrating in the backfield.
You hope so.
That would be quite nice. A lot of times, the Old Dominion, whichever Old Dominion quarterback is in the game, you're hoping they're trying to fix their helmet. You get sacked, and you get it's that big pile up, and you get the quarterback's helmets upside down. Hope we see a lot of that on Saturday. Because, again, South Carolina has fortified the edge. They got a lot of depth on that defensive line. You hope we're going to see some, not just pressures, because pressures are a very arbitrary stat, or hurries. I hope we see a lot of sacks or a decent amount of sacks. Last year, South Carolina got pressures.
Mm-hmm.
However you quantify a pressure, but not a lot of sacks.
Right.
Like, for example, we talked about this. I think Tonka Hemingway and I think it was TJ Sanders both had more pressures than Kyle Kennard.
Mm-hmm.
But Kyle Kennard had as many sacks as those two guys combined.
Exactly.
Got home, got the sack. You want to get home this year and get more sacks, and hopefully it starts with the team that's rebuilding its offensive line in Old Dominion.
Sure.
Let's hope.
Correction, by the way. Appreciate those pointing us out on the Firehouse Subs-text line. I believe I was thinking of Akron. Jacksonville State was actually
they were like
a
an
decent
8-win team
last year.
Yeah, they went to a bowl game. Didn't Jacksonville State go to a bowl game?
They did, and they had to. It was the weird rule about first-year teams in FBS. They had to circumvent, but they were allowed to. But Akron was one of the worst teams in FBS last year,
Akron
and that's who
bad.
South Carolina plays in non-conference this year.
Yes,
so
there you
I
go.
think that's where my wires got crossed.
That's where your brain was going.
Yes,
Akron.
It happens.
Well, Akron's a beautiful city. You never been to Akron, have you?
I've never been to Ohio.
I lived in Ohio for 2 years, and I have been to Akron.
Nobody's told me enough enticing things about Ohio to want me to want to go.
Columbus is kind of a cool town. It's college town, state capital. Cleveland used to have this really cool area called the Flats. If you enjoy the nightlife,
okay,
the Flats really cool. Obviously, Rock and Roll Museum, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, rather.
I just assume in Akron there's a statue of LeBron in every corner.
Yeah, pretty much. And by the way, it's funny because people try to lump Akron with Cleveland.
Okay.
Akron hates Cleveland. They want nothing to do with being part of Cleveland. They're not a suburb of Cleveland. They'll tell you that.
Good to know.
So don't go to Akron and go, wow, you guys like a suburb of Cleveland. That won't end well for you. Cleveland has Lake Erie, which was on fire decades ago. It's pretty impressive.
Nice.
And then you have Youngstown, where I lived for 2 years and had the highest crime rate and highest murder rate per capita in America those 2 years.
Is that because of you?
Yep. Can't really talk about it now, Tyler. Can't discuss it. My attorneys tell me I can't speak of that time in my life.
So Terry Ford's your new name, right?
That's right. So anyway, You know what we got to do here? 803-404-6100. Our buddy Gamecock Larry. Let's get Larry in here and see how he's doing. Larry, my man, you're on the halftime show in the game. How you feeling, my man?
Well, I'm feeling okay.
Good.
Terry, they got me on this hospice, some kind of thing, I don't know. They got me moving to my living room. Today I feel the best I felt in 2 months. I got a great support group. But I just want to tell all my friends out there in Gamecock Land, keep me in your prayers because it's been a rough 2 months. They talking about, I heard them in the hospital talking about writing off. They ain't going to write me off. I ain't going nowhere till the good Lord gets ready for me. But I'm feeling good, and I'm getting my spirit back, and I'm getting my strength back, and I'm going to have some predictions Friday for 2 games. I'm only going to predict 2 games. I ain't going to worry about none of the rest of them because they took the balls away from us. They took the Gators away from us. They took Georgia away from us. Old Bulldog Burt, Gator Ryan, and Vol Cat. I don't know your name. But they took you 3 away from me. But the only way we're going to see you is in the playoffs somewhere, either in the SEC tournament final, because the Gamecocks going to be there. We're going to go 12-0, and I'm going to stick with it till we lose one, then they're going to be 11-1.
All righty, my friend. Gamecock Larry, appreciate you, my man. You hang in there, feel better. We'll be thinking about you, pal. All right, halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Firehouse Sub, text the hours next, 803-404-6100 here on the game.
From the Midlands to the PD to the beach.
The Game Network.
Sips and Sounds, the only craft beer, wine, and spirits tasting event held indoors under the cool AC. No rain, no heat, no worries. Unlimited sampling of over 40 brands of local and national craft beers, wine, seltzers, and spirits. Live performances by Ken and Drew of Sister Hazel, Dazer, and the Donovan Twins.
Saturday, September 28th. Get your unlimited tasting wristbands now at sipsandsoundscola.com.
This is Andrew Bogish with a Sports Minute sponsored by WeatherGuard Truck and Van Equipment. They're just as driven as the hardworking pros they serve. U.S. Open Tennis reminds me that there's a specific part of the NIL landscape that needs immediate fixing. There are amateur players in New York City right now that can make infinity sponsorship dollars, but accepting actual prize money for winning matches against NCAA rules. That doesn't make sense. I'm Andrew Bogish.
For more than half a century, contractors and trade professionals have relied on WeatherGuard for heavy-duty truck and van storage equipment, not just to protect their valuable tools, but to protect their professional reputations. For pros, the WeatherGuard badge makes a statement about what drives them. It says, "Bring it on. Been there. Done that. We've got your back," without saying a word. And the folks at WeatherGuard, they're just as driven as the hardworking pros they serve. See what it means to be driven at WeatherGuard.com.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Football season is grilling season, and Jack Oliver's Pool Spa and Patio is South Carolina's premier source for the Big Three: Weber, Traeger, and Big Green Egg Grills. I'm Jack Oliver. Grill all your tailgate favorites to perfection with a premium gas, charcoal, or pellet grill, then top it all off with something sizzling from your griddle. For grills, griddles, patio furniture, hot tubs, and saunas, shop in store or online at Jack Oliver's Pool Spa and Patio, Forest Drive in Columbia, and JackOliverPools.com.
Carolina Honda Powerhouse is your local Honda ATV, side-by-side, and motorcycle superstore. Hunters, now's the time to upgrade to a new Honda ATV or side-by-side and get free gear. Right now, buy a Honda Pioneer Pioneer 700 or 1000 side-by-side and get a free top and windshield. Need an ATV? Get a free winch with the purchase of a new full-size Honda ATV. On-road or off-road, all roads lead to Carolina Honda Powerhouse. Exit 70 off I-20 and turn by the Flying J. CarolinaHonda.com.
At Midlands Orthopedics and Neurosurgery, we realize that unexpected orthopedic injuries require easy access to specialty care. That's why we now offer the HURT mobile app to give you live expert advice 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for free. With the HURT app, you're never alone with your injury, and a team of experts is just a tap away. Download the free HURT, that's H-U-R-T, mobile app from Midlands Orthopedics and Neurosurgery today.
Remodeling. Just the thought of it can be a little scary. I'm Eddie Springer of Traycal Builders, and we understand. Many of our clients come to us after a bad experience, from no-show contractors to shoddy work. We've seen it all. Traycal is different. We do first-class work quickly, cleanly, and affordably. With Traycal, remodeling's easy. Call 360-8211, 360-8211, or visit TRECALbuilders.com. Quality from start to finish.
Carolina Honda Powerhouse is your local Honda ATV, side-by-side, and motorcycle superstore. Hunters, now's the time to upgrade to a new Honda ATV or side-by-side and get free gear. Right now, buy a Honda Pioneer 700 or 1000 side-by-side and get a free top and windshield. Need an ATV? Get a free winch with the purchase of a new full-size Honda ATV. On-road or off-road, all roads lead to Carolina Honda Powerhouse. Exit 70 off I-20 and turn by the Flying J. CarolinaHonda.com.
At Midlands Orthopedics and Neurosurgery, we realize that unexpected orthopedic injuries require easy access to specialty care. That's why we now offer the HURT mobile app to give you live expert advice 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for free. With the HURT app, you're never alone with your injury, and a team of experts is just a tap away. Download the free HURT, that's H-U-R-T, mobile app from Midlands Orthopedics and Neurosurgery today.
And now the sounds of football from Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers. Enjoy the taste of football too with hand-tossed pies, hoagies, wings, meatballs, hot pretzels, and over 100 beers from around the world. Mellow Mushroom in the Vista and on Sunset in Lexington.
Football season is grilling season, and Jack Oliver's Pool Spa and Patio is South Carolina's premier source for the Big Three: Weber, Traeger, and Big Green Egg Grills. I'm Jack Oliver. Grill all your tailgate favorites to perfection with a premium gas, charcoal, or pellet grill, then top it all off with something sizzling from your griddle. For grills, griddles, patio furniture, hot tubs, and saunas, shop in store or online at Jack Oliver's Pool Spa and Patio, Forest Drive in Columbia, and JackOliverPools.com.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
It's time for Text of the Hour on the Firehouse Subs text line on the Halftime Show.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence. And the 107.5 The Game app.
Time to get our Firehouse Sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. What you got there, Tyler?
Yeah, once again, had a lot of people asking questions about if you were listening on the stream there in the last hour. Unfortunately, when it comes to Universe press conferences, we can only air those uninterrupted locally here on 107.5. If you are listening on the stream, you probably heard some commercials. That's unfortunately a network thing that we don't necessarily have control over, so that does cause some issues with that.
Being a network, we have to pump commercials down to affiliates.
Yes.
And we have basically a delivery system that we have to do that with. We won't bore you with tones and things of that nature and technical mumbo jumbo that will put you to sleep. But we have to do that, and because of that, if you're listening on the stream, you're going to be hearing those running like they're in the background is the best way to describe it. We don't run, but because we have to deliver those elements. So again, sorry about that. Your best thing to do, and maybe we'll start saying this before the press conferences, Tyler, is we're getting ready to go to the Shane Beamer presser. Go to Let me ask you, I wonder. Now I probably run there too. Just got to listen to, I guess, the old school terrestrial signal, the over-the-air signal, and not the streaming signal.
Right.
Because even if you're on the website, just go to the website like the old days, you're still getting the stream. You're not getting the terrestrial.
I'll double check. I believe if you're watching us on the Game TV, you should be okay too.
I believe you're right.
So.
So you can video stream it and listen to it.
And it's obviously it sucks, but it's something that we have to adhere to.
We'll try to figure it out for you. So by next week, maybe we can have a better solution. But those are two we're thinking of right now. But thanks for, look, I get it. It stinks. You're trying to listen to it on your phone or maybe your laptop, your tablet, and you're getting the commercials like we would run them normally during an hour, and you're hearing those pop, and you're like, I'm trying to hear a presser. We get you. Trust me. I'd probably be the same way if I was listening to it on my phone. So, but we do appreciate you texting, letting us know. We'll try to be up front and answer it for you the best we can. So we appreciate that. Okay. We got Gamecock football tickets we have to give away. We have a pair for the opener against Old Dominion. So if you want to go, you don't have tickets, this would be a good opportunity to give it a whirl. I think caller number 6 would be good. We'll do that, 803-404-6100. Hit the cool fancy sounder, though, Tyler.
Run to your phone and start dialing 803-404-6100. It's time to give away some Gamecocks football tickets.
Touchdown, Carolina. Sponsored by Carolina Honda Powerhouse, your local Honda motorcycle, ATV, and side-by-side superstore. Online at carolinahonda.com.
All right, so give us a call. Caller number 6, 803-404-6100. You want to roll off to the opener at Williams-Brice, 4:15. South Carolina, Old Dominion. Give us a call again, 803-404-6100. Our day starts at 11 a.m. Gamecocks game day. Our local show here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia only. You'll hear that at 11 to 1 with Tyler and myself. Then we go to the network that you can hear here in Columbia and in Myrtle Beach with the network pregame with Chris Miller and the crew there. Then Todd, Tommy, 4:15. Kickoff, South Carolina, Old Dominion from Williams-Brice. And you can hear all that, 11 to 1 here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and in Myrtle Beach in Columbia starting at 1 o'clock. Look who's here, stumbling in from the press conference. You're doing those sobers, no fun. Stumbling in from the press conference, our buddy Elijah Campbell. Get your thoughts. We were enjoying it because we know why, and it's not really a criticism. I was really impressed by the creativity. You know, Old Dominion almost played a New Year's Six bowl game.
They didn't.
Oh, Tyler will fix it or go to that one. Try that one. See how that.
How about now?
There you go. We're
better.
in.
Microphones work a lot better when they're on.
Yeah, I know. Call us crazy. But yeah. And, again, I give Shane an A for creativity on that one. Because you always want to pump up, your opponent, especially an opponent who a lot of people predict will be about a 4-win team.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, here's the thing when projecting group of 5 schools too, right? Like, there's so much turnover on those rosters that what Old Dominion is last year is not what they'll be this year. But one thing that I think you can legitimately take away from his assessment of Old Dominion is the pace they play on offense. That's not going to change, especially considering the coaching changes that they made to be able to run a more up-tempo offense.
But the good news is you've played that offense.
Yes.
A better version of that offense.
Like the best version of that offense.
Well, the offense that they're taking it from, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because they picked the brains at Tennessee to get this offense at Old Dominion. So basically, you can just go been there, done that. We're playing against a team running Tennessee's offense without Tennessee's players.
Yes, exactly. And that's another thing too, and I'm glad it was asked, was how the defensive line, because we talked about how deep that is, how old the defensive line unit is, and how many capable players you have on your 3 deep on that defensive line. And I think you're going to see a really good example of how this team is going to use South Carolina, that is, how they're going to use that defensive front this year and utilize that depth. I believe him when he says everybody that's on that 3 deep is going to play. Or they're going to play 6-7 dudes and maybe even more, because if they're going to play up tempo on you, you have a defensive line that is very well equipped to be able to throw bodies in there in waves and hockey shifts, if you will, to be able to combat that pace that Old Dominion's going to want to play with. And in terms of not getting got by a team like Old Dominion, which has happened to Virginia Tech a few times, or at least if they don't beat them, they scare the hell out of you. I think you're at least well equipped on the defensive line part to be able to be better suited, I guess, to handle that type of offense, even if it's something you haven't seen before.
And you'll be fresher in the fourth quarter if you're hockey shifting you're the first two levels of your defense, because you are so deep this year. So, I mean, that's a good thing. And the other part of this is they might be going to this offense, and one of the things that could help them is the fact their offensive line was they had this problem called protecting their passer. 62 sacks, 2 returning starters combined gave up 19 sacks.
Oof.
So
that's not good.
Are you now also, and is the other part of this running up tempo? And are you using 3-step drops to get the ball out of the hand of your quarterback faster? Are you throwing shorter little bubble type screens, a little shorter type, passes out in the flat so your quarterback doesn't get decapitated because your offensive line was not very good, and you're bringing back a couple of guys from that line, and they might get better. Don't get me wrong, you can develop.
They could.
But, again, 2 guys returning as starters, 19 sacks.
Yeah, that's why Old Dominion's projection for the season, right, isn't incredibly high. But again, the Group 5 level, like Old Dominion is in the same boat as a lot of those schools in the Sun Belt. Now, the Sun Belt, I think, is the premier Group of 5 conference. So
they passed the American probably because American graduated teams to the power leagues.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And coaches to the power leagues. Yeah,
right.
I'm talking to you, Willie Fritz, who bailed for Houston.
Hey, hold for a sec. We'll come back and we'll do this some more on what's trending at 2, as we've got to do this thing called a legal ID to keep us legal.
Yeah, I don't want to get arrested.
Yeah, we'll blame you. Again this week.
That's right.
WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
The home of the national champion Gamecocks women's basketball team. Congrats, y'all.
A Cumulus media station.
What's trending at 2?
Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions.
2 locations in Lexington and Sandhills on the Halftime Show. Your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia. 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
Halftime Show, What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Also, our buddy Elijah Campbell just coming back from the Shane Beamer presser that you heard live here on The Game in Columbia at 107.5. All right, so we just had a little fun with Shane's pumping up of Old Dominion because, again, we know he is. That's his job. We get it.
I'd be concerned if he didn't.
Yeah, if he got up, wouldn't it be great? Ready? Tyler, wouldn't this be good? We'd have we got, but he said like this, yeah, we got Old Dominion this Saturday. We're going to beat the living hell out of them.
Yeah, those guys are bums.
Just once, I want a coach to be honest about that. Just once, I want a coach. Maybe it's his life. Maybe it's a Mac Brown in his retirement season when they're playing North Carolina Central or A&T or something like that. Like, we're going to beat these guys 80-0.
Ready?
I think these fellas are doo-doo. We're going to whip them up and down the field.
How about this? Ready? So, Coach, watching film. No. We haven't watched no film. They suck.
We just played NCAA 25 on them all day.
I'm looking at the roster. Their biggest guy is 5'8", and he's playing left guard. I think we'll be okay.
My prediction is we're going to eat somebody. We're going to eat another living human on that football field. Someone will be consumed.
Wouldn't that be great? Just once.
That'd be hilarious.
Just once.
Just once.
Please.
I want brutal honesty, because we all sit there in these press conferences. You're listening to them going, right, okay. And like I said, the stretch of taking a team that was 6-7 and saying they were almost a New Year's Six team, that's an all-timer.
He's good at
that. That was a good one.
He's good at this.
That was a really good pull.
Like, well, like me and Terry said, well, if they didn't lose all their games, they would have won them.
They've been undefeated.
So just think about that.
Take away all the losses. What do you got?
Who was it? Trent Dilfer on NFL Countdown one time. It's like, you can't win games in the NFL if you're losing. And that is very, very true. And that is applicable to every single football team at every level.
I'm sure Confucius wrote that in his, fortune cookie at Panda Express that morning. So...
That's right. That's where he saw it, actually. And he reached an epiphany that afternoon that if you're not winning games, you're losing.
I never really thought about it that way, but he's not wrong.
Well, a lot of your deeper thought comes from those late nights at Panda Express. Just saying.
your best thoughts or the lack of thoughts, and I've experienced both.
Hey, speaking of thoughts, what was the number one thing you took away from hanging there listening to Shane?
I think my biggest takeaway is, or at least things I was really wanting to take away. One was Lenore Sellers' demeanor. There's a lot of Lenore Sellers questions because he will be making his first ever start as the South Carolina Gamecocks quarterback. And I did find it interesting that when he's talking about his demeanor, he did kind of compare it to Jalen Hurts a little bit in terms he's got a quiet confidence. And that's one of the biggest takeaways. I think anybody that sits in listening to Lenore Sellers or hearing people talk about Lenore Sellers is how even keel he is for somebody who does have a ton of talent, but don't mistaken that even keelness, that quietness for like insecurity and non-confidence. He's got a quiet confidence about him. I think him making that parallel to what Jalen Hurts was when Shane was on the staff in Oklahoma, I found to be pretty interesting. I also wanted to go in there asking kind of about the offensive line and maybe why some of the guys that were pinned in as starters are, and the words a lot, toughness and experience, like with Torricelli, Simpkins, and Kamar Bell. Those are two guys that I think I believe the depth chart when it came out yesterday, those guys are going to be starting and taking the first series on offense against Old Dominion on Saturday. And I just wanted to hear maybe like a little more of why those guys are so suited to be able to hop in on this offensive line, especially offensive line that brings back a lot of players from last year's team. And I think the biggest thing is just like that toughness and experience, and kind of blending in questions here, but it's applicable when you're talking about respecting teams in the Sun Belt Conference, respecting your Old Dominion opponent this Saturday. You had everybody in the team meeting stand up that transferred from a group of 5 or less, and there were a lot of dudes that stood up. So while Torricelli Simpkins maybe hasn't played a ton of FBS level, SEC level football, they are very convinced he can go in there and help this offensive line, and Kamar Bell as well. Even though he played a ton at Florida Atlantic, they believed in his development enough in his time there in Boca Raton that where he can come into South Carolina and help them immediately. And the fact that they've been there since January, he kind of mentioned, gives them a leg up. And that's the big thing I think every Gamecock fan has questions about going into this year is the offensive line single-handedly derailed your season. How is that going to look this season? And when you bring in a bunch of new players, how well are they fitting in and acclimating? And I did think it's kind of interesting that out of those, out of the assessment of all the offensive linemen, it's the age and the toughness of them. And toughness sometimes is a coach buzzword. I get that. But I think they're really buying in on the previous experience that the guys that they're bringing in had at their previous stops, despite them being FCS or Group of 5.
We're trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions Fine Jewelry. Hanging out with Elijah Campbell, who was over there at the Shane Beamer presser. We aired here at 1 o'clock. Tyler Head, Terry Ford here on the game. It's interesting because, look, the offensive line, you got 3 new starters on the O-line. And Casey Henry's kind of a new starter because when he started, we played like 7 snaps. The one holdover is for Sean Lee. And it tells you a little something, right? That you knew what you had last year, you obviously can't come back with. You can't sit and go, well, Tree and Ball, we're going to just, we're going to develop those guys. And you might. And those 2 guys might end up starting before it's over with because they're oars.
Mm-hmm.
They're oars.
And they had a whole season of getting the lumps out of the way.
They got lumped.
And they certainly did.
They got lumped. But here's the thing. We talk about experience. We were going over this too, Tyler and I. The defense, especially the first 2 levels, is a bunch of grown men. Like with kids. They're driving Subarus and minivans. And they're not 18, 19-year-olds going, hey, dudes, let's go to 5 points.
Yeah,
no,
right.
They're going, hey, man, I got to go home, burp a baby, put a diaper on, and take a nap.
And get ready because in 3 years I'll be off my parents' insurance.
Right.
Like that type of age. Yeah.
But let's think about this for a minute. Going to the point because you brought up something that I want to spin with you too. Let's go over the amount of guys who are making their first SEC start. Lenore Sellers, Jared Brown, Trey Jacobs, Gage Larvadan, and if Mazio Bennett gets run, Mazio Bennett as well.
Mm-hmm. I believe he will.
Josiah Thompson, Kamar Bell, Torricelli Simpkins. Was that 8?
That is 8.
Is that 8?
Yep.
8 of your guys.
Also Brady Hunt, the other tight
Brady
end
Hunt.
spot.
Well, and Brady Hunt. So 9 guys will be making their first. That's on offense. Defensively, Kyle Kennard. JT Gear didn't start a game, but he was here last year, so he played in the SEC.
Can we count that as a half?
Yeah, half. Kyle Kennard, Demetrius Knight, Bengali Kamara will be getting run for the first time in the SEC. So defensively, it's not as bad. But on offense, you got 8 guys conceivably making their first SEC start against Kentucky in 2 weeks.
On the road.
So now will this Old Dominion game help them playing for an SEC team for the first time in your home in a game you should win? Does that help you? Sure. Thank God it's not starting off against North Carolina like last year.
Getting thrown right into it.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Yes, experienced guys, but they don't have SEC experience, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and here's like the wild thing too that Shane mentioned. He said, and I don't know how scientific or how 100% accurate it is that this is the biggest crowd Old Dominion will have ever played in. I wonder if that's the case for Old Dominion. How many is that for some of the players on your team as well? And that might be true for Old Dominion. I need to go look and see what Lane Stadium in Blacksburg is. I don't think it has the same capacity.
No.
So that could very well be true. But it's going to be that way for a lot of these players as well. For your Jared Browns, your Torricelli Simpkins, for your Kamar Bells. They played in a lot of stadiums that didn't have this capacity. And even though you're on like the better end of it, right? This is not supposed to be a hostile environment for you. SEC football, culturally and in terms of atmosphere, is significantly different than a lot of other places in the country. You will emotionally get amped when you hear Sandstorm for the first time, and you're the home team, right? Mm-hmm. Managing that emotion is going to be a different type of obstacle for some of the players on your team as it is being the visiting team, where it's more of a hostile environment. I found that to be pretty interesting too, but this would be a good way to get acclimated to that environment. I don't want to say get used to it. I don't know if you ever really get used to it, but get acclimated into an environment like that where this fan base is hungry for football, starving for it, especially ever since last year ended the way it did. Mm-hmm. And they're going to look for any type of optimism possible. I think this is a game that if you take care of business, you generate optimism going into that Kentucky game, because the last thing you want is for this bad boy to go to overtime, get lemon butt for the last 2.5 quarters, and have to really sweat something out and going into the Kentucky game and it feeling more daunting than it is.
Yeah, I mean, 66,000 plus at Lane Stadium in Blacksburg.
Yeah.
That's a great atmosphere. It's a great... Yes. Enter Sandman is a thing, man.
Great song. It gets me amped.
It's so cool. But it's not 80-some thousand at Williams-Brice.
Exactly.
So it's a different animal for the Old Dominion folks. But to that point, and Tyler and I talked about this last week too, go out here and just smack them.
Yeah.
The boat race starts early. Get out there, get a lead of a couple scores, dominate on defense, don't commit any big turnovers on offense, and just get yourself a nice little workable margin, build upon it, and let's make it a party. Let's not make it Jacksonville State.
Where you're getting lemon butt for 2.5 quarters of that game, 3.5 quarters of that game. You are white knuckling the steering wheel for the home stretch, and if it's not for Stone Blanton getting a pick six, who knows exactly how much more you'd have broken that steering wheel from holding on to it so hard.
And just don't
want that.
Handle your business. This Old Dominion team, you should win this football game rather easy. You should. Will you? No, I don't know.
They're 21-point favorites.
Right. I mean, but you take no one lightly when you're a 5-7 football team or coming off a 5-7 season. Now, this team has a lot of experience, a lot of grown men, again, driving minivans with children, but you can't, you got to come in here and you got to handle and be done with it. You don't want to be fiddle bleeping around, and then all of a sudden you look up and you've given those guys hope and you got a football game on your hands.
That's why I'm really fascinated. Of all things that we're going to be looking for on Saturday, and it's going to be a plethora of things, but the thing that I might be most intrigued with is what is that first offensive series in terms of what Dow Loggins will have prepared, because, obviously most of the first 15, 20 plays are all scripted. Yep. What was scripted for this game? How are you wanting to set the tone for the season with a new quarterback, a new offense? Because you're going to have to tweak a lot of your offense. I think we're going to see a lot more 12 personnel this year. We're going to see a lot of dinks and dunks, a lot of short West Coasty offense with this team, just given the personnel and given the way wide receiver wise, it's been on record saying you don't have one person stand up above everybody else, especially when it comes to stretching the field. But what are those first 10 to 15 plays that have been scripted that you've had all summer to prepare for going to look like? I think that's going to tell us more about this team for the early portion of the season, because I think subliminally that's going to tell us what they think the skill set is, because you need to set a tone. The last thing you want to do is go 3 and out against Old Dominion on the first possession of the year and have any type of doubt start creeping in. Belief is the most powerful drug on the planet, and if you can be able to instill some belief that you can walk into a stadium against an inferior opponent and run their rear ends over, I think you got to be able to show that as soon as possible. So I'm just incredibly intrigued with what that sequence is going to look like.
I feel like if I'm going to predict, you're going to see a good amount of the RPO game. You're going to be seeing Sellers use his legs. I think you're going to see one of those little bubble-ish type screens of Jared Brown.
Shallow crosses.
The tight end will get used.
A lot.
Josh Simon. And I'm hoping you try to stretch the defense with a deep shot or two. Because the last thing you want is a defense to be creeping up on you. Now, in the scripted 10 to 15 to 20 plays, I hope we see some of those. But I think you're going to be seeing a good dose of Rocket Sanders as well.
He's not on a pitch count.
No, he's
today.
not.
He's not.
No, he's not. So, and what else is interesting is where they're going to run the ball. Josiah Thompson is a freshman. Casey Henry hasn't played a lot because of injuries. But you got 2 guys in Bell and Simpkins at guard who are really good on a lower level, and the rock of your offensive line in Vershawn Lee. Do we see a lot of stuff in between the tackles? Guard center type of stuff. So it's going to be interesting.
Just to see if you even can. I think that'd be a fascinating thing too. Like when we watch this game on Saturday and when we rewatch it and charting exactly where these runs are, how much I think we trust that offensive line can be indicated on where a lot of these runs are. Shane even mentioned today when it comes to Josiah Thompson, he doesn't think he's ever started a true freshman tackle to start a season in his career. And this is a man that has been at many different stops at very high levels, especially in the SEC, even though Josiah Thompson is, otherworldly talented, has great size, great athleticism, and they have raved about him. This is a show of trust.
You have crap beer to drink, I'll let you go.
That's right.
You're never sober when you work with Jay.
Exactly. I can't be.
Well,
this is a prerequisite.
That's what that wasn't either. That's okay.
I don't blame you.
All right.
It's a rite of passage.
Elijah Campbell, thank you, my man, over at the Shane Beamer Presser covering that for us. We'll get back in here. Halftime show. It's trending at 2. Sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Halftime show here on the Game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach.
107.5 The Game.
In Columbia.
100.5 The Game.
In Florence.
100.3 The Game.
In Myrtle Beach. The Game Network. Download the 107.5 The Game app and listen anywhere. The beach. The gym. And yes, even there. Go to iTunes or Google Play and snag the 107.5 The Game app. 107.5 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios.
Take up to $20,000 off new Silverados.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Together, let's drive.
Hi, Jen here. Did you know you could earn up to 4.59% annual percentage yield with All South Federal Credit Union's premium checking account? That's 30 times more than the national average interest checking rate, which means more money in your bank account each month. Plus, they have 23 locations right here in the Midlands. Open an account online at allsouth.org or visit an All South location today to start earning more. All South is federally insured by the NCUA.
Since 1963, Takeuchi has been a pioneer in the compact construction industry, having developed the world's first compact excavator in 1971 and the world's first compact rubber track loader in 1986. Takeuchi continues to revolutionize the industry through innovative technology and listening to customer needs. Now you can partner with a truly global leader by contacting TEC Rental Equipment in West Columbia, Orangeburg, and Somerville. From world first to world leader, Takeuchi.
This year, Roy and Dana Finley are shaking things up at AAA Heating and Air. For the next 12 months, they're telling their customers no. Get a new system purchase with no payments and no interest for a whole year. You heard that right. Purchase a brand new system in 2024 and get no payments and no interest until 2025. Do what I did. Call AAA Heating and Air today for your free estimate. 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
Phones aren't wired to the wall anymore. We carry them in our pockets. Cars can even drive themselves, right? Technology advances have changed our lives.
That's football legend Emmitt Smith.
Some of the most fascinating advances are happening with the medical professionals at QC Kinetics. I'm talking about natural regenerative treatments for joint pain without surgery or harmful drugs.
Tens of thousands of patients have discovered these breakthroughs firsthand at QC Kinetics. With over 100 board-certified providers across the country, they're transforming the world of pain treatment using your body's own healing properties to help restore your aching joints.
Why would you keep going back to the old tired ways of treating chronic joint pain? Check out the latest advances at QC Kinetics. And here's an idea for you. You can call them on that smartphone right there in your pocket.
Call QC Kinetics, 803-281-6860. That's 803-281-6860. 803-281-6860.
The Gamecock Go Pass is back. For only $20 a month, you'll receive access to all non-conference football games, most men's and women's basketball and baseball games, and all softball, soccer, and volleyball games. To learn more about the Gamecock Go Pass, visit thegamecockclub.com/go.
Do you like to play golf?
Are you passionate about helping others?
Then join us at our 16th annual Oliver Gospels Charity Classic,
where all proceeds support the care of men, women, and children at Oliver Gospel and Toby's Place.
Assemble your team and help us golf for good on October 7th at Fort Jackson Golf Club.
Go online to olivergospel.org/golf tournament to sponsor or sign up today for the tournament.
Powered by Integrated Media, The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality.
The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. It's the Love Chevrolet countdown to Gamecock football.
4 days till kickoff.
While others take full advantage of the market with ridiculous add-on stickers, Love never sells above MSRP. Come experience the difference at Love Chevy, your trusted family-owned dealership since 1961. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive. Hit us up on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100.
Your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence. The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina, on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence. And the 107.5 The Game app.
All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry here on the Halftime Show on The Game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. All right, grab a little sound here. So, in case you haven't heard, Florida State got beat over the weekend.
First I'm hearing of this.
Lost to Georgia Tech. We didn't really get into this much yesterday, but we've all yucked it up in some way, shape, or form on or off the air. Again, I got no dog in the fight. I could care less. But I'm not going to lie. What team bellyached the most of any team in the offseason in college football?
That'd be Florida State. Not that they weren't warranted.
No, I don't mean about getting screwed over about the national championship. I mean getting out of the ACC.
Oh, yeah, well.
You know, you're so much bigger and better than being in the ACC. You're slumming in the ACC. You know, you got to get out. You deserve what you deserve because you're doing the ACC a favor.
Sure.
Blah, blah, blah. And to see them lose to the engineering students in Atlanta was kind of funny to me.
I imagine Jim Phillips was somewhere within the facility on Saturday watching in a suite or whatever. I think he got a good laugh at the end of the game.
I think that would be a yes. An absolute yes. Now, Florida State deserved to be in the college football playoff. They totally got screwed. But that's another story. The whole, you know, the ACC's got to pay us all this money to stay because, you know, we're so awesome and the ACC should be kissing our butt. It was kind of fun to see Florida State lose. Unless you're Danny Cannell, former Florida State quarterback. Here's Danny Cannell talking about, well, he's kind of concerned about some things with his Seminoles.
And then it's like, all right, was that a
they weren't prepared, they took Georgia Tech lightly, or is that they were extremely overrated and it's going to be a really long year? Like that's the concern I have, because like DJ, I think you can win around him. I thought he made the fourth quarter he had a couple fourth down conversions, he settled in.
Absolutely.
And he didn't make the big mistake. Like that's where I think when we were texting back and forth, I think that's kind of where Norvell was like, I don't want him to make the big mistake in this game. Not yet. Like, let's just run the ball. Because I agree with you, like, it was a very conservative game plan for DJ. But I think they thought, like I did, like, he doesn't need to be great this game. We can just, get a good performance and we'll be fine. And clearly they needed a lot more than that.
Yeah, DJU wasn't the problem. I mean, they didn't let him throw the ball really down the field. When he didn't connect. In that intermediate area, he was really good. He wasn't terrible. You didn't lose that game because of Uiagalelei.
They certainly didn't let him rip by any means. And if the defense was as good as it was supposed to be, this is probably like a 24, 28-7, 28-10 type of game that, isn't the flashiest by any means, but one that you got through. Nobody got hurt. And, you kind of were able to keep things close to the vest to use later on down the season. But, yeah, certainly in that first half where they had the stat at halftime where, his average throw depth was like 0.1 yards.
Yes.
Because everything was around the line of scrimmage. He was completing those passes, which is fine, but he did not start opening it up until the second half. And he did make some decent throws down the field. Not every throw was great, but it was definitely a conservative effort offensively. But again, if your defense was as good as advertised, this wouldn't have been a close game. We wouldn't be talking about this. But the fact that it came down to, okay, now you got to put a drive together, which they did. Florida State had a very good drive when they had the ball the last time, 15 plays, 75 yards, and a touchdown. So they did what they needed to do there. The only problem was their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed, so Georgia Tech got the ball back and never gave it up again.
You lost that game because you got whooped up front.
Yes.
Had nothing to do with your quarterback. You got whooped up front. You were out-physicaled by Georgia Tech. So, Danny, that's what you got to be concerned about, my friend. All right, let's move on here. Obviously, Clemson, Georgia, big early season matchup. I'll tell you a little bit. I think it tells you more about Clemson than it does about Georgia.
Sure.
Just to be honest. Here's Dabo talking about the challenges of playing the Bulldogs.
No, we really don't approach it any different. You're always got to get your team ready for the season, number one, in camp. But, there's a lot of installation and things like that. But what it does is it just brings an edge that, is just natural. I think, when you're dealing with a bunch of competitors, a bunch of guys that love to compete at the highest level, coaches and players, only one team gets to play the number one team, right? So they are truly the number one team. They've been the best team, I think, the past 3 years. I think they've earned that. So with that, when you play an opponent like this right out of the gate, it just brings a little different edge to your off season, to your summer, to your fall camp. And I think that's just human nature. So, but as far as the preparation process, that part of it doesn't really change.
You're going to learn a bit early about Clemson. Can they finally get back to actually running offense?
Well, you know what we don't learn about Clemson this week? What their depth chart looks like. Or Georgia's. These two teams are having a stalemate when it comes to depth charts.
How funny is that? And no caller can talk about any of that with Dabo.
Dabo is strictly allowing no calls, only text or emails for his call-in show after the famous Tyler from Spartanburg incident.
You mean the plant call? I mean the call?
Well, here's the thing. It's like, okay, was it a plant? Now that or was that like he wanted that call to get through so he could go on his spiel about, look what I've done, look what I've accomplished, be thankful for me. And this was like middle towards the end of the season. Then he cuts it off the next season. Like, all right, everybody remembers that one. Remember what I said. Now we're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, well, you hit it right there. That's what it's used for now. No more of that. All right, real quick, speaking of calls, 803-404-6100. Our buddy Ray's been holding on. Ray, always good hearing from you on the halftime show.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, doing good, man. Doing good. I tell you, earlier, Tyler and the guys, they were talking about, about college coaching shows and how I guess the team upstate Clemson, their talk show, they're no longer going to take calls from fans, the live calls, which I think to me takes away the whole fun of talk radio. Every now and then you get that, that call to just, God, you almost in a damn ditch, so crapshoot's so bad. But I guess I understand. You know, it can be a little pressure. Somebody they're getting there making a call. I guess it goes back to the Tyler guy from Spartanburg last year, which I still wonder if that was kind of a fixed thing. I don't know. But anyway, but what I was called about, Tyler and the guys this morning, they were talking about, they're kind of agreeing with me that, it takes away the fun. And they were talking about, people call in and ask about the tight end. Well, when they said tight end, I was thinking, I can remember like 15 or 20 years ago, and Terry, I'm sure you remember as well. For some reason, the college football thing, fans would always call and say, we need to throw to the tight end more. Why are we throwing to the tight end? We need to throw to the tight end more. Yep. And no lie, people were calling in the Lou Holtz show and say, Coach, do you have any patterns for the tight end? Can you throw the ball to the tight end more? and I swear to God, so they're asking Skip. So Skip was the offensive coordinator. And they're asking, well, Coach, this is an off week. What are you going to do this week? He said, I'm going to sit in my living room and I'm going to watch college football. And every time I see the tight end, I'm going to say, throw to the tight end, throw to the tight end. But that's so good. Kind of a thing of the day. Anyway, hey, man. Hey, appreciate it, Terry.
I appreciate you, Ray. Thanks for calling, like always, my man. Thanks a lot. We'll get back in here. Today's the 27th of August, Tyler.
I'm assuming it's the greatest day in the history of the world.
That's coming up next here on the Halftime Show on The Game.
The Game Network in Columbia.
107.5 The Game.
In Florence.
100.5 The Game.
In Myrtle Beach.
100.3 The Game.
Powered by Integrated Media. The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. A true reflection of quality.
The Game TV.
What's up, Gamecocks? Ben Cato, third-generation owner of Cato's Power Equipment. Here with a few tips to help make summer just a little bit easier on your zero-turn lawnmower. Hot days mean you might be running through engine oil just a little bit quickly. Give that dipstick a check every day. And consider switching to Kawasaki K-Tech 20W50, designed for ambient temperatures over 120 degrees. Dry days mean extra yard debris. Make sure that the top of your cutting deck stays clean and doesn't get packed with dry grass, hay, or straw. If you're worried about keeping it clean, a handheld blower from Steel, like the battery-powered BGA 60, is perfect for it. And don't forget, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of, having to pay to get your lawnmower fixed. Consider using these blistering afternoons to give your equipment some extra TLC. For all the parts, service, and advice you'll need, do what the pros do. Come to Cato's Power Equipment. Visit us at 4012 West Beltline Boulevard or always online at catospowerequipment.com.
Chubby's Burgers off Forest Drive is celebrating its grand opening. The team at Chubby's Burgers is so excited to share their unique smash burger concept with you. There's something on the menu for everyone. And now Chubby's has 2 locations. Chubby's in Blackwood and now Chubby's Columbia. Off Forest Drive, right off I-77. Come check out their That's What She Said burger. And Chubby's is now serving their cheesesteaks daily. Stop by today and say Chubby's 2 and get 10% off from now until November 30th. Chubby's Burgers in Blackwood and now open off Forest Drive in Columbia.
I'm here with the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder of First Palmetto Bank. Jacob, tell me more about this 4.99% 30-year fixed product you are offering in Richland County. We have a community reinvestment product in the areas of Richland County. Blythewood, Northeast, Southeast, and the I-20 corridor are areas that we're offering the 4.99% interest with a 5.075 APR on a 30-year fixed mortgage. We are underserving these areas, so the bank is offering 100% purchase loans at 4.99% on a 30-year fixed. No points, no mortgage insurance, no gimmicks, just lower payments.
4.99% is awesome. What's a payment look like?
Yes, Bill. A payment on $200,000 at that APR is $1,072 a month for 360 months. A payment on $300,000 is at $1,608. These estimates do not include taxes and insurance. These loans are only for primary residences, and the loan amounts are capped at $300,000. Call me today. A number is 803-719-1005, or you can email me at jcrowder@firstpalmetto.com. All loans are subject to credit approval and property appraisal. First Palmetto Bank is a member of the FDIC and an equal housing lender. My NMLS number is 198432.
Have you had a broken windshield complement to those South Carolina roads? The insurance company might try to steer you one way, to the big national guy. But remember, it's your choice. Go local. Call Absolute Glass.
We can repair your car back to factory specifications, including recalibrating all of your safety systems. We do great work and have been building long-lasting relationships for over 20 years.
That's why we've been voted Best Glass Company in Lexington for 15 straight years. Visit us online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com or call us at 951-7200. And remember, if you can see through it, we can do it.
The children's music and dance teacher who couldn't cha-cha. I was always on my feet. It was just so painful. Elisa couldn't let her students down, so she stepped up and went to the Good Feet store for personally fitted arch supports.
I would work an entire day and my feet didn't hurt at the end of the day. That was when I knew, wow, these are different.
But the really good part?
It's good to be dancing together again.
Stop by or schedule your free fitting at goodfeet.com.
The Good Feet store. Call 1-800-NEW-FEET or visit goodfeet.com.
Living with persistent pain and facing joint replacement? You want the best surgeon and technology available. You'll find both at Midlands Orthopedics and Neurosurgery. Using the most advanced technology, including robotics, our experienced orthopedic surgeons, nurses, and technicians perform hip, knee, shoulder, wrist, and elbow replacement, as well as hip resurfacing with no hospital stay, excellent outcomes, and lower costs to you. Midlands Orthopedics and Neurosurgery.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevy. It's back to cool season with big time savings on Tahoe Suburbans and the all new Chevy Traverse. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive. The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
The greatest day in the history of the world on The Halftime Show is sponsored by 1-800-GET-JUNK. We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
You know the over-under for Clemson, Georgia is 48.5.
And Georgia's still about a 2-touchdown favorite.
I'm going the under there. Do you think they're going to get almost 50 points between them? Two really good defenses.
So. I also think Clemson will cover the spread. I think Georgia wins outright, but kind of similar to this past weekend against Georgia Tech, I think there's going to be a lot of clunkiness to it, and I think it's going to be a pretty tight game.
Yep, take the under. That's where I'm at there. Under 48.5. I thought it was a bit high. All right, let's give away some Gamecock tickets. Hit it, Tyler.
Run to your phone and start dialing 803-404-6100. It's time to give away some Gamecocks football tickets.
Touchdown, Carolina. Sponsored by Carolina Honda Powerhouse, your local Honda motorcycle, ATV, and side-by-side superstore. Online at carolinahonda.com.
We will go caller number 5 this time, 803-404-6100. Caller number 5 gets tickets to the opener. South Carolina, Old Dominion, 4:15 kickoff this Saturday at Williams-Brice. Again, caller number 5. All right, greatest day in the history of the world is August 27th. On this day, 2023, you might have heard of her. Simone Biles wins her record 8th U.S. championship in San Jose. And, of course, you saw what she did here in the Olympics recently in Paris. Got one I'm going to save for Tyler from 2006 when he finishes up getting our ticket winner. This day in 1985, Mary Jo Fernandez. You see her, she does tennis analysis on ESPN. She's doing the U.S. Open. Mary Jo Fernandez on this day in 1985. She beat Sarah Gormer, 6'1", 6'4". You're saying, who cares, Tara? Well, she was 14 years old. The youngest player to win a match at the U.S. Open at age 14. 1982, Rickey Henderson of the Oakland A's steals his 119th base. That breaks Lou Brock's record. And then Rickey spent a lot of time talking about how great Rickey is. Rickey Henderson was something else. Greatest leadoff hitter, most likely in the history of the game, or at least in my lifetime. Dude walked, so he got on base a ton, stole bags, hit you 25 homers. Rickey Henderson was a phenomenal leadoff hitter. 1978, and you remember this guy really as an analyst. Most folks, I don't know, under the age of 50 or 45, 40, whatever. But Joe Morgan was a two-time MVP with the Cincinnati Reds. In 1978, Joe Morgan is the first player to hit 200 homers and have 500 steals in a career. Another guy that was an excellent leadoff hitter was Joe Morgan. And here's one. 1884, right before SportsCenter. Richard Sears beats Howard Taylor 6-0, 1-6, 6-0, 6-2 to win his 4th straight U.S. Tennis Championship. Nobody dominated the 1880s like Richard Sears did. Nobody. So I got one more greatest day in the history of the world. We're going to throw at Tyler here in a second. See if he can get a little racing. Because I think he's only missed 2 of these since we've been doing them. He's like 98-2 when getting these. So we'll get that in a minute. Also, we'll have tickets coming up, by the way, before 3 o'clock to go see Imagine Dragons. So get ready for that. Imagine Dragon tickets coming up. We'll do that real quick. You can go check out that gig in Charlotte. All right, I got one for you, man, before we get out of the greatest day in history of the world.
All right, go for it.
On this day in 2006, this driver becomes the youngest winner of a major open wheel event, beating Dario Franchitti by 0.66 seconds to win the Indy Grand Prix of Sonoma. Youngest winner of a major open wheel event, 2006.
2006.
Dad was a very famous driver.
There's a lot of them. I'm making sure I get the right one
like
here.
it is. It's like there's a lot of sons of fathers of fathers of sons of
I want
fathers.
to say it's Michael Andretti.
You were so close. Who's the other one?
Marco. Dang it.
Marco Andretti.
So close.
Michael was really good for a minute or two and then just stopped being good.
Yeah. Well,
am I wrong?
Well, there's only one superior Andretti.
Well,
that's
obviously.
Mario.
But Michael was pretty good for a little bit and all of a sudden just stopped being pretty good.
Yeah. And look, those guys are involved in the ownership side of things now.
Sure.
And the Andretti legacy continues on. But yeah, Andretti. Marco.
2006, 19 years
2006.
old.
Yep.
None of those guys won neither one of the Andrettis besides Mario won the Daytona. The Indy 500.
No, it was
Right?
it was Marco that was in the lead on the last lap in 06, and Sam Hornish it's the best Indy 500 finish I've ever seen, and Hornish passed him on the front straightaway coming to the checkered flag.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Nice. And Michael never came close to winning, right? The Indy
Not
500.
from what I remember.
All right, so there's your greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. By the way, Kadarius Toney just got let go by the Kansas City Chiefs. Former first-round pick of the Giants, remember played on that SEC East champion Florida Gator squad with Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts. And problem with Toney, he just can't stay healthy.
Right.
Dude can't stay healthy. And there's some off-the-field stuff with Toney in the past. Not like felonies or crimes, but just pain in the butt kind of stuff.
Sure.
And you thought, okay, go to Kansas City with that kind of physical skill and ability to go with the mind of Andy Reid and the sick skill of that quarterback, number 15. You think Toney could pop and he could reach or at least start to go toward the ceiling that he had when he was drafted out of Florida. Nope. Let go by the Chiefs. Former first-round pick now has been let go twice in the first, 4 or 5 years of his career.
Was he one of the drop leaders on that team last year?
He led the drop brigade. They all had a hand in leading the NFL in drops.
Or lack of hand.
Yeah, ready? Until the playoffs.
I know. It was the craziest thing.
And they caught everything in the playoffs. So weird. All right, so Toney let go. That's just one of the bottom line there on ESPN. By the Chiefs. All right, we'll get back in here. Firehouse Sub text the hour is coming up at 803-404-6100. Do not forget again, 4:15 Saturday. Here on the game in Columbia and Myrtle Beach, you will hear South Carolina Old Dominion. We start our coverage at 11 a.m. only in Columbia with Gamecocks Game Day with Tyler and I. The network pregame, you'll hear that in Columbia and Myrtle Beach at 1 o'clock, and then 4:15 kick in both of those markets, South Carolina and Old Dominion. We're going to have tickets to give away for Imagine Dragons in the next segment, too, because we got pairs of those to give away as well. So we'll do that. And by the way, I just found this out. You and Jen will have, I think, 5 pair of Darlington tickets to give away later in the week with your NASCAR trivia you guys do.
Okay, phenomenal.
You guys can handle that, right?
Yeah, think we got it covered.
All right, we'll get back in here. Our Firehouse Sub text the hour at 803-404-6100. It is the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We go up until 3. Then Jay and Elijah take over with the postgame show. Sure, a lot of conversation about Shane's presser that you heard here at 1 o'clock and thoughts from Jay and Elijah on that. Halftime show, final segment, up next here on The Game.
From the Midlands to the PD to the beach.
The Game Network.
Carolina Calls with head coach Shane Beamer.
Thanks to everyone for coming out. What an awesome crowd on a Thursday night.
This Thursday at 6 p.m. on The Game.
This is Jim Rome with a Sports Minute. Jerry Jones, credit for this much. At least he finally did something, which was a major departure from a giant mountain of nothing, which he did all offseason. Nothing except say that he's all in over and over and over again. Apparently, all in means waiting until the very last minute to pay your best offensive player. I'm Jim Rome.
Right now at Wendy's, you can get a small Frosty for $1. And literally everyone is going. The car behind you, going to get a $1 Frosty. The car ahead of you, already had one, going for a second. The person who cut you off earlier, you guessed it, $1 Frosty. Maybe it's all a sign for you to go get one. Just don't cut anyone off. No one likes that person. The iconic Frosty for $1, gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's. Not valid in a combo. Prices may be higher in Alaska, Hawaii, California, and via third-party delivery.
Our Labor Day savings start now at Lowe's. Right now, buy one, get one free on Valspar Reserve or HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams Infinity or Showcase Interior Paint via Lowe's gift card rebate. Whether you're painting one accent wall or want to freshen up a whole room, we've got you covered. Because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows home improvement. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowe's.com/rebates for details. Valid through 9/4.
Injured in a car wreck? Need your check? It's easy. Dial 1-800-ALL-7s now.
The Anastapula Law Firm has been recovering millions for their clients for over 30 years. Whether it's a slip and fall, car accident, or any other issues that have resulted from an accident, Anastapula Law Firm can help. Their South Carolina personal injury attorneys have experience fighting for the rights of their clients. Remember, don't scream. Call Akeem. Dial 800-ALL-7s now. Herb Glass is responsible for this ad, and cases are handled at 32 Ann Street, Charleston, South Carolina 29403. Paid endorsement, not actually client. Results may vary.
Hey guys, it's Preston Thorne for your broker, my broker, Benji Getzi at Buford Lending. Buford Lending is a true mortgage broker offering the widest variety of government mortgage programs and the best mortgage experience for clients through its state-of-the-art technology and record low interest rates. Their goal is to make your next mortgage experience at closing easier, cheaper, faster, and friendlier. Whatever you do, don't wait. Shop and lock your rate today with Buford Lending. Don't go to Wall Street. The rates are better on Bay Street. Online at Buford.mortgage.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted it close to town with a picture window overlooking a yard. And you found it. Now when you sit down to dinner, you've got front row seats too. Your neighbor's daily pickleball game. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
It's time for Text of the Hour on the Firehouse Subs text line on the Halftime Show.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
Time to check our Firehouse subtext of the hour, 803-404-6100. We got there, man.
Let's see. Do you think this is the game we try and run the score up if the opportunity is there, or do we try and get back up some reps if we get get ahead with solid lead?
I just think you let the game flow. Like if you get it going and you just you play your depth and they keep scoring, oh well. I mean, you know what's so funny, Tyler? My mindset on this has changed as I've gotten older.
Sure.
When I was younger, back in the old days when we played in leather helmets and we rode horses to the games, we were taught this whole idea of, let your foot off the gas.
Yeah.
Show sportsmanship by not embarrassing someone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, was that ingrained in me? Sure. Do I still have that part of me is, you're beating the heck out of somebody, you proved your point. You're good. But that's not the way it is today. That's more disrespectful today than running up the score because now you're not trying hard against me.
Sure.
You're disrespecting me by not trying hard.
Yeah.
So, to me, if you put your backups in and they're getting their opportunity to play, what are you going to look at them and say, hey, guys, why don't you go out there and not really try hard?
Well, I also think it's about what you call because if you're calling inside zone run up the middle every single play just to bleed the clock, you're probably not going to be all that successful. But if you're allowing Robbie Ashford to go out there with, 3 or 4 different wide receivers and you're running 4 verts or something like that,
and you're throwing it deep,
you're being a little more aggressive and trying to score.
Yeah, I just think that now that whole premise of, running up the score is poor sportsmanship, even though that's what I was taught growing up, and there's a part of me that still believes that, like in basketball. If you're up by 40, don't be full court pressing.
Sure.
There's no reason for that. Especially if you're clearly better than the other team, what's the point? Now you are embarrassing someone.
Right.
But in today's world, I mean, players get mad more when you don't try hard because they figure that's a sign of disrespect. Because you know what? I can whoop you and not try as hard.
Yeah.
So I just think you play the game, you make your play calls, like you said. You're up by 30 and you're lining 4 wides and running everybody deep. No, you don't do that. But you let your backups get a chance to get a taste.
Sure.
And let them go play. Make play calls. Don't be crazy aggressive, but go out and call some plays where they can maybe thrive and get a little taste of some success, and that's fine.
I think ideally, in a perfect scenario, you have a sizable enough lead at halftime to where maybe after the first drive of the second half, you're bringing in mainly backups. You'd still rotate some guys in and out there, and you can continue to be aggressive through at least the third quarter. Then, when you get to the fourth, this game's coming down, final 10, 12 minutes, sure, run the ball, bleed the clock, all those kind of things. But you like to have a significant portion of the game where you can have other guys in and still go out there and be aggressive, ideally.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect world is you win comfortably. Everybody feels good. You get that hope of all these things that we want to go a certain way, have gone that way in some way, shape, or form. And, of course, the most important thing is no one's hurt.
Yes.
And you move on to Lexington, Kentucky in week 2.
Yeah.
I think Jay Phillips in at quarterback in the fourth quarter probably would be the ideal scenario.
You know it.
You're a righty, correct? I won't hold that against you.
Okay.
You ever fling the old football around?
It's funny how you won't hold that against me, and yet you'll hold my devotion to Apple computer products, and yet you're the left-hander who's in the weird, whatever minority that is left-handed people.
When I grew up, that's when they were trying to have people be right-handed if you were a lefty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, remember that? It was you're a lefty?
Well, remember that? Pretty sure, like, way back in the day, and that, like, you people were considered
freaks.
Yeah.
We were weirdos.
What's wrong with you?
What? I mean, you'd hear stories from like our parents' generation of they would actually tie like the kid's left hand down to force them to use their right because they didn't want to be a circus freak.
By the way,
how funny is that?
That's just horrible. That's just horrible.
I always try to put that middle picture in my head. Quit using your left hand.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible. But anyway, what were you going to say? So I'm a righty, yes, and I will be entering the.
You ever? I mean, you pitched in high school. Did you ever fling it around in football? Were you quarterbacked or doing that kind of stuff?
No, I didn't. I didn't play high school football.
I mean, when you were a kid playing football, did you fling around playing quarterback?
Yeah.
Because a lot of you pitchers are also quarterbacks.
Yeah. No, I mean, I played a lot of pickup football, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always wondered what that would have been like. I don't know. I don't really. I probably should have. I just didn't. All I ever wanted to do. I've told you before. Mm-hmm. All I wanted to do was be Dale Murphy.
I know.
That's it. And then and I've said before, like first day, 9th grade, baseball tryouts, cold February.
Mm-hmm.
You know, coach, we're throwing long toss in the outfield, warming up. Haven't done anything yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
You ever pitch? No, sir. You do now.
You're like, no, I want to be Dale Murphy, dude. I didn't sign up for that.
I didn't even get a chance to catch a ball in center field yet to show you that I could be Dale Murphy.
You got to watch me be Dale Murphy first, Chief.
And I've said before, I think I probably told you, there was a kid named Robert Bryson who became our center fielder on the JV team in 9th grade. And I was like, well, I'm not good. He was better than me. So that was that. But I could pitch. I didn't know I could pitch.
Isn't it funny, though, when you want to play a position and there's a guy on your team that's clearly just
he was better
a
than
dude that you might think, because we all think we're a dude in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But then when you run into the guy that is the dude,
well, in my 4 years, I can name them. In my 4 years of high school baseball, again, Robert for a year, better than me. A guy named Frank Ives for 2 years, better than me. And a guy named Reeves McLeod, center fielder, better than me. So, but again, I could pitch.
So I had a guy like that, and he followed me. Like he was on, because I played center and left. And I had a guy on my Pony League team, played center, could fly, could cover more ground than me, so I'd play left. We got to high school. Guess who was there, too? Yeah. That guy.
Yeah.
I plotted his death many times so I could go play center field.
Just better than you.
He had another gear, man.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
I'd have killed with that gear. So I played left field.
But it was left field. I played, okay.
On
the days I didn't pitch, I played left or right, depending on who needed me to do
okay.
what.
I would just get in my mind. I cover more ground than any left fielder in the world. I would put that in my head.
Right field was more fun. Right field was more fun.
All right, so we talked about this. You heard Shane's presser. Did you get a chance to check it out?
About the last half of it, yeah. Did not get to see and or hear the whole thing.
Okay, any thoughts of what you heard?
No, I mean, I think, I heard him talking about Lenore's leadership and what they're expecting in terms of the drills late. I think there's sort of a, I don't want to say a quiet admission of like unknown, but there is so much that they just have to go work on and do. And I think, you've heard Shane lament not having a real exhibition game in either spring or in August. I'm with him on that, as you very well know. That's my number 2 hill behind the NFL Developmental League. And that's why I've stressed on my show, and I'm going to ask Ryan when he comes in. Ryan Brew will be with us for his regular visits starting this afternoon. And I just heard you mention go next week to Lexington. I'm really narrowing my scope this week, despite what kind of opponent and how heavy an underdog they are, to the guys I'm taking next week. I'm really trying to, and maybe they probably already have, I don't know, 60 to 65 of those guys that they know are going next week. So is there a group of 15 to 20 that they narrow to 10 that they take with them too? Like how much, and really pressing those guys? But this team's going to need, offensively especially, in my opinion, to get that continuity going. Well,
it's funny. We went over this. Like, the defense is covered in, 25-year-old guys. We were joking they have minivans and kids, and they're out in the yard with you and all. But offensively, even though you brought in transfer portal guys, you have, what was it, Tyler? 8 of your starters on Saturday have never played in an SEC game.
Yeah. Correct.
So to your point, let's get these guys some run and get them ready for the real SEC game against
What am I supposed
Kentucky.
to do? What does the guy next to me do? How does that feel? And no matter what, I'd try to keep as many, first and second teamers in all day Saturday if I could.
Let's get some continuity. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell, postgame show. Brewer will be here today. Nice job, Tyler. We'll do this again tomorrow on the halftime show here on The Game.
107.5 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios.
Take up to $20,000 off new Silverados.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Together, let's drive.
Chevy's Burgers off Forest Drive is celebrating its grand opening. The team at Chevy's Burgers is so excited to share their unique